Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another match of the URC. This one, a quarter-final, a rematch of a contest that we did see last year between the Stormers and the Glasgow Warriors. Now, Glasgow will be at home for this matchup, just like they were last year. I just have a feeling this is going to be a pretty good one. The Stormers have come into some nice form as of late. Glasgow, they've been a little bit up and down. They have certainly looked like a shell of their former selves at times, but I also think that they are currently in the process of building towards these playoffs, which is why this game will be so intriguing. This is the top 8, and the reason that Glasgow are playing the Stormers is they were starting off at around 2 or 3 for most of this season, but then slowly dropping in those last few rounds, which then led to them being in that 4th place position. Now, the bonus that they have got, though, is the fact that they are at home. And we do know that the Stormers, yes, they are a fantastic side when they're playing in Cape Town, but when they aren't at home, they're a little bit more 50-50, which should give Glasgow a bit of a decent chance here. But looking through at all the quarterfinals that are taking place, as you can see, the Glasgow Warriors, they are included in the trend, which is every home side is in the position of getting themselves coming in as favourites. Now, the Sharks and the Bulls, the two other South African sides, they will be in action tomorrow. Well, today, depending on how you look at it. Of course, that 11:30 p.m. game between the Bulls and Edinburgh. But we have also got the draw in terms of who will be playing who. So for Glasgow versus the Stormers, the winner of this game will be playing the winner of Leinster versus Scarlets. Now, a lot of people feel that that is a pretty one-sided game, as you saw in the odds. Can't even put money on Leinster anymore. But as we also know, they've had a few little mistakes in playoff rugby in recent times. Looking through at the starting lineups, though. First of all, for this Glasgow Warriors side, they are looking pretty strong. Jamie Barty alongside Hiddleston and Walker as the front row. Samuel alongside Scott Cummings in the locking duo. Ferry, Rory Daj and Henko Fenter sorting in as the number 8. Now, the thing is, yes, they are looking strong, but there are still a few other names that Glasgow would have loved to have in the mix for these contests. You know, you look at someone like a Fagerson, who is nowhere to be seen. You've seen Williamson off the bench as well, which, you know, it's one of those big decisions, isn't it? In playoff rugby, what's your selection? It either works or it doesn't, and the coach either gets a massive pat on the back or a massive amount of stick. Now, the back line, it's George Horn and Tom Jordan. In the 9-10 combination, Sione Tuipulotu alongside Stafford McDowell. In the middle with Kyle Stain, Kyle Rowe out on the other wing, and Josh Mackay as the number 15. So that is the starting lineup for the home side, Glasgow. Now looking through at the Stormers, one massive absentee in this lineup is Damien Valimza, getting the suspension in the last contest that the Stormers played. And not only will he be missing this game, but if the Stormers are knocked out now, he will be missing the first couple games for the Springboks as well. But looking through at the starting lineup, Alistair Vermaak, Andre Hugo Fenter and Nedeling Fouchier as the front row. Mourat alongside Van Heeren in the locks. And then De Villiers, Tennyson and Evan Roos. That man has been talked about a lot in recent times. And the fact that he was missing out on the alignment cap that Rassie Erasmus held, he has to really step up here, because if he is one of those guys who are on the verge of getting into the box, it'll be these playoff matches and also maybe less phone calls from his father that will end up getting him in the side. Stephen Nkura as the number 9 alongside Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu. He gets the start at 10. He has been a superstar at times throughout the season for the Stormers. Dan Duplessis and Hudsonberg in the middle of the park. Sanatla, Ben Loader and Warakalant at number 15. But looking through at the chat we have got there, hello, homesick with COVID, glad for your company, says Yvonne, so hopefully you do feel better in the near future. We have got there, I think Glasgow could win this by a score of 25 points to 23. And we have got there, no DNA, just RSA, says for Reed. And Stormers fans in the house here, you guys have shown up in numbers early on for this live stream. Like I mentioned, they played each other last year in the quarterfinals, and it was Glasgow who were able to get themselves the victory, 27 points to 10. So it wasn't actually that close, but this Stormers side, I feel, have come a long way since that. These two teams met more recently than that, though, and in the most recent game, I believe, have we got it here? We had a couple pop-ups. We got the Glasgow game. No, it was the one just before that, but we will get the score for that one, of course. But these are the last two fixtures for these sides. Stormers having a win over the Dragons and then beating Cardiff. And that is what has booked them the spot where they are on the overall standings. In terms of this Glasgow side, as you can see, that game up against Benetton was far from perfect. They made a lot of mistakes. They definitely weren't the side that they wanted to be, and Benetton just took it to them. Now, unfortunately for Benetton, that was, I would say, their last hurrah in terms of what they were able to do for this competition, as they were then knocked out in the following weeks. But I just feel like, based off the last two games, Glasgow, we're going to read off some stats, and it almost makes the fact that they've only scored 2 tries recently unbelievable, because they are a team that love to run in tries, and they normally do it so successfully, whereas they just haven't had that spark from their last 2 games. They found themselves defending. Now, up against Leinster, their defence was solid. They stopped Leinster from running in tries, as a lot of people felt they were going to win that game by more. But, yeah, they're going to have to defend well here, but also find a way getting those tries rolling. Because the Stormers are a side that even when they lose, they normally score about 30 points. What's the score? Game hasn't started just yet. We'll be starting in around 13 minutes' time. So we are going to be covering it as soon as it does. Also, South African teams winning this weekend, says LFG. And if that was the case, we would then get to see the Sharks taking on the Bulls in the semi-final of this competition. There is a way for South African sides to be through to the final, and that is an all-South African final. And that is, of course, if the Stormers get themselves a victory, and then if the Sharks and the Bulls both do as well. How's it, Hamish? Hope it's a storm tonight. Would have been nice to watch the game, but I know you'll paint the picture for us tonight. Go the Stormers, says Roger, and come on Stormers, says Tonian. And also Sasha Show. A lot of pressure on that man, though. We got to remember the week after, or the game after, in fact, that he had been praised to the moon all throughout the media, was the week that he really struggled and had about a 3 out of 10. Now, I haven't seen as many people talking about him this week, which normally means that we're going to see an X-Factor performance from Sasha Feinberg Ngume Zulu, and I look forward to it, because when that man is firing, he is incredible. He can find gaps that no one else really does see in terms of the Stormers attack. Now, they have got some handy players off the bench, but like I said, one of them's not Damien Valimza, unfortunately, due to that suspension. To be fair, they stood up versus Leinster. Says Jimbo, they did. They stopped Leinster from scoring tries. They didn't score many themselves, but they still did a lot better in that game up against Leinster than some anticipated. So with that in mind, maybe they'll go a little bit better. Stormers 15 Gallant is the most naturally gifted at the URC, including Super Rugby. Gifted in the URC, including Super Rugby. So you're saying in URC and Super Rugby, would you say across the board, would you say Gallagher Premiership, top 14, do they get in there as well? Or is it not quite universally gifted in that regard? Hi Hamish, good to see you, bud. Unfortunately, think Glasgow will win this one. Not enough big players in the Stormers pack. Never underestimate the BS factor. That is Sasha Feinberg Ngume Zulu. Says Henry. That sounds like a comment of a man who's wanted Sasha to carry the team in a game and he just hasn't. And, you know, he can be a little bit inconsistent at times. That comes with most of the young players around the world, but he's going to have to step up big time here. Away from home too. That is the other side of things. You're not in front of the home fans. If you're the Stormers, maybe a few people will make the trip. Any streaming site suggestions? Do you have a VPN? Because if you do, there are about probably 3 or 4 different locations around the world that you can watch this game for free. I would recommend TVNZ Plus here in New Zealand. If you set yourself to New Zealand, you'll be able to watch all of these quarterfinals, not just this game. So it's one of the easier locations that you can find all of the matches without too much trouble. Go Stormers, go, says Farid, and there as well. So a lot of Stormers supporters. So we will have to ask the question now, ladies and gents. What are the score predictions that are coming in? Who do you think will be able to get themselves the victory in this contest? I personally think that Glasgow have been a little bit shaky in the last few games, with a lot better performance coming when they played Leinster. In terms of the Stormers side, they are the type of team that can win by 15 if they're on form, or lose by 15 if they're off it. So it's definitely going to come down to who shows up more. Glasgow's home field advantage, you'd almost say they have that slight edge, and they do come in as the betting favourites, but the Stormers are definitely not out of this game before the kickoff. They are going to be putting up a fight and trying to make it a really good one. Sasha's an absolute natural, but watching a Stormers highlight reel today, I have to say Lebock did some magic through the season as well. Yeah, and I think the biggest criticism Lebock always gets is that kicking tee. But when you actually take away that tee from him and see the attacking that he can offer, he's one of the best 10s in the world. Now, of course, the stigma is he has to be able to kick his goals to be able to earn that title. But, you know, there are still ways. Like, if you had Sasha, for instance, in this game, if he was playing in the 15 jersey or at 12, rather than what Damien Willemse was doing, there was a way of having both of them in the side. But I do think that they want a little bit of extra oomph off the bench and a little bit of stability in a way in terms of who they can bring out there. These are the benches. They've got Herschel Yankees, Marnie Libok, Joseph Dweber's the man who's going to be coming off the bench rather than starting. So it just seems like a Stormers side built for the 80 minutes rather than built for an electric first half. Now, I think we'll still get that electric first half, but they'll have something left in the tank when Glasgow start making their change. I mean, Johnny Matthews, he's been sensational for quite some time in terms of being able to score points. I also saw an interesting stat, which was Glasgow have had the best tackle success rate so far this season with 82.7%, but not just that. Glasgow averaged 26.9 defenders beaten and 6.6 line breaks per game. So they're first on defenders beaten, third on line breaks in the competition. So they have certainly brought that little bit of extra X factor. We've seen Hudson Berg, one of the standout players in terms of statistically for the URC and for Stormers. The man's not in the side. Now, I don't know whether or not that was injury-based or whether they have just decided Loader and Sinatla. Oh, no, sorry. Hudson Berg has shifted, I should say. He's actually in the 13 role, which is pretty confusing. But that is because of that Damien Willemse suspension. Haven't you gotten any rest today? Or have you gotten any rest today? I did manage to get like 3 hours sleep before this game, which is why one of my eyes is pretty red at the moment. But, yeah, no, we'll find some sleep at some point, hopefully, before the end of the 24 hours. We have got there. Hi, everyone. Hope all are well. It's finally quarterfinals. Let's go the Stormers, says Lilia B. And where are they playing today? They are playing in Scotland. Now, I will mention, I've got Murrayfield behind me. It's because for some reason I wasn't allowed to put the picture up that I was going to. It ended up glitching, so I just had to go with Murrayfield. And there's at least a Scottish flag, so it seemed a little bit more, I guess, close to home for the Scots. And we've got there 100%, but he's a fantastic playmaker, says Roger there. And TG4 in Ireland is where you can watch it, says Patrick. And Glasgow 17, Stormers 20 and 26-23. We're seeing a lot of games split by less than 5. Lilia B has said 21-19. And who's the strongest between the two? Oh, okay. I would say as a whole, it's so hard to say because there's actually some very class players. I would say forward pack advantage to the Stormers, backline advantage, as bold as it is, I would say to Glasgow. But mainly because this Glasgow Warriors side, they've had a few injuries throughout the season, but now they're starting to build back to that backline that they had near the start of the season, whereas Stormers, they've had to make a couple reshuffles. With no Damien Willemse, it's meant that Dan Duplessis goes to 12 and then Hudson Berg at 13. And that's just a bit of a concern, I think, at this stage of the comp, to have to make a big switch like that. Could be the difference between a win and a loss. And good evening, Hamish from dark, icy Cape Town. Says Roof. And yeah, we haven't seen what the weather's doing at the game as of yet. We get the coverage in 3 minutes here in New Zealand, and we'll get to see exactly what they're playing. And I hope it's a nice day. It'll be great to see some running rugby between these two sides, as when they get it going, these two are two of the most entertaining sides in the URC. Just once again showing it, ladies and gents. Whoever wins this game will face Leinster or the Scarlets. Now, these dates are not confirmed for the semi-finals. It's just 2 a.m. is when one of the games more than likely will be happening. But up against Leinster, I'm sure that both of these sides would have a pretty hands-full kind of contest. Up against the Scarlets, they'll both back themselves to be able to get the win, as they would both have the home field advantage. The Stormers or Glasgow, theoretically, there's still a home final on the line for these two teams. Now, as weird as it sounds, like if the favourites of these two games get knocked out, being the Bulls and the Sharks, Edinburgh versus Munster, whoever wins that would face Glasgow or the Stormers at home. Now, for that to happen, a lot has to go right over this weekend for the South Africans, or in fact, against the South African sides, for that to be the case. But as we've seen from Knockout Rugby recently, nothing's impossible. And every once in a while, you get that little curveball that then ends up throwing everyone off their heels. But this is the way that the top 8 finished. Now, there were a couple sides very close. Shout out to Cardiff, shout out to Benetton. Both only a couple points out from the runnings. But the Scarlets, probably the dream season for them to be able to be within that top 8. Edinburgh and Munster both having to make that late dash to get up there, but the Bulls, Leinster, both being consistent throughout the season. Glasgow at times too, although 7 losses, a lot more than we saw for them last year. And then the Sharks. I mean, we talked about Scarlets being a bit of the dream story. This Sharks side were ranked at this point in time last year about 14th, maybe 15th in the overall standings. So it shows what difference just one season can do. They're a stacked side. They're going to be stacked heading into their next game too, where they do go head-to-head with Munster. We have got there, what's the purple number 1 crown with my comments. So YouTube added a trend or like a little thingy that pretty much gives people points based off how much, well, sometimes it's how much they comment, and also it's based off, the super chats and everything like that, and you can earn like XP, I think it's called. I'm a little bit confused by it still, to be honest. We have got there, how's it? Let's go Stormers, 28 points to 21. Says Wyndham there. And also Glasgow tackle well and score wide. But I'm loving the Stormers' recent form, says Jimbo. Yeah, I think it's just got all capabilities, this match, of being an absolutely awesome one. I'd just like to know what is your score prediction on all the games this weekend, says Andre. So based off the matches that we've got, I would say, honestly, the odds probably aren't a mile off. Although I do think, if I'm honest, if Glasgow win this game, I just feel like either Munster or Edinburgh might cause an upset, just to be the one side that can do it. Although, if anyone was going to do it in terms of causing an upset, it's a pretty good chance that it could actually be the Stormers side. They are the closest in terms of tied with Munster as the favourite underdog, if you like. But there's still potential for Glasgow to have a couple mistakes and the Stormers just to absolutely run it in, like they have been in a few of their other games. Now, they did get themselves 2 comfortable victories in a row, although that game up against Cardiff, of course, that scoreline may be a little bit flattering in some regards, but that game up against the Dragons, they were just good from start to finish. Now, just showing the lineups of these two sides, Alex Samuel and Scott Cummings in that locking duo are really going to have to step up here in this game up against Morat, as well as Van Heerden, one of those guys who I think is pretty underrated for what he's able to do at locking time, as well as with ball in hand for the Stormers side. But yeah, a couple low-scoring games for Glasgow, which is an interesting one. We have got a donation from Robert V. Thank you very much, mate. Greatly appreciated. Fleshin is also here with the evening/morning. Welcome in, mate. And the Sharks says Ryan and Munster has a better chance to cause an upset. Cough Sharks cough, says Wenmar. And we have got there, hey, so it's not going to be the Scarlets then, says Fleshin. And what's your game schedule? Pretty much what those games said. That's what we're doing. Alongside that, we have got the games of Super Rugby, 2 out of the 3. So the next contest that we're covering will be starting at 4:35 p.m. New Zealand time. So in about 10 hours. And that one is the one between Waratahs and the Blues. And then alongside that, we've also got another contest after that one, Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica. Along to the whistle, I would say about 2 minutes. They are getting pretty close to making their way out onto the field. They are just building the atmosphere, getting the crowd fired up for this contest. Once again, for anyone who hasn't seen it, as the sides make their way out of the tunnel, Glasgow and their starting side, their backline is absolutely stacked for this game. They've had their fair share of injuries throughout the season, but it seems like everyone's coming right at just the right time. George Horn, Tom Jordan is the 9-10, then Sione Tuipulotu and Stafford McDowell in the midfield. That man looked like Lex Luger in the crowd. Kyle Stain, Kyle Rowe, the Kyles out on the wing, and Josh Mackay at number 15. Then for the Stormers, in terms of their side, their back line's pretty stacked too, although a couple changes having to be made due to that Damien Valimza yellow card. Brings Sasha Feinberg Ngume Zulu as the 10 with Wada Kalanta at 15. But the challenge for Hudson Berg, who has been known for beating defenders throughout this competition, he's had room on the outside to be able to do that. Can he create space in the middle alongside Sasha to really bring that X factor? But they are just talking about the fact that Glasgow, they are the defending champs. Some people do forget that. At the end of the day, these boys have held that URC trophy before. It was quite recently, and they want another one. Yes, they've been a little bit up and down recently, but this group of players, when they play well, can be outstanding. And I think that's Johnny Matthews. He has got his baby with him. I at least assume it's his baby. Doesn't look like it would be any more than a few months old. We have got there coming the Stormers, says Dylan. And Willem's out. What a sad one. Yeah, it's a massive shame because that man's been building some tremendous form as of late, and him and Sasha have been running the show for the Stormers. So without him there, you wonder whether or not does that create a little bit of indecision in this backline. But they are just showing Andrew Brace. He will be the referee in charge of this contest, ladies and gents. But we are only moments away from the rematch of last year's quarterfinal. In that game, it was 27-10 in favour of Glasgow. This year, can Stormers write their own history and finally take out that URC? Willem's out wide injury, so it was a red card last week, or the week prior, I think it actually was. The massive shame about it was it came from the Stormers asking for a try to be checked that their opposition scored. I think it was their game up against Cardiff, wasn't it? Or was it the game up against the Dragons? It was one of the two, but they were leading by a really decent margin. They wanted to try to be checked. The TMO checked it, cleared it, and then said, hang on, there's head contact there. So then Willem's got his suspension. So it really backfired for the Stormers in a time where they didn't need that try disallowed. They could have just kept on playing and they would have been all good and they would have still had Willem's for the match. And Willem's are so sad, says Dylan. Yeah, you can tell from the way that he's been playing, he was thoroughly looking forward to these contests. But this game now, the whistle has been blown by Andrew Brace, which means we are underway, ladies and gents. Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu to kick us off with a quarter-final. A little bit of sun to contend with in the first half for the Glasgow side. That should almost be down, though, by the time we get to the other side of the match. Now, that is going to be a great counter-ruck coming here from the Stormers, really trying to work for that ball. It might become unplayable here. Nkura got down on the ground and unfortunately couldn't quite bring that ball in, so it does mean that Glasgow once again got themselves possession, although everyone URC playoffs are upon us, and it feels like it's come around very quickly. For some reason, about maybe round 14, felt like the competition had been going for ages, but then the last few weeks have just flown by. And maybe it's the fact that we've had that Champions Cup in last week. Big congratulations, of course, to Bordeaux for getting themselves the victory there, but George Horner has cleared his lines and weather looks perfect. Honestly, I don't think they could have had a better day for this contest, which is what you want. You don't want a game heavily affected by the rain when you've got two of the best free-flowing teams in the competition. And Cardiff it was, says Dylan. Yeah, so that was the most recent contest, wasn't it? Now, Andre Hugafenta, ready to throw this one in. They have made the big call of going with him in the starting lineup rather than Joseph Dweba. Now, getting ready to throw this one in. Going off to the left-hand side. Good tackle made by Glasgow, who have the highest tackle completion rate of any side in the URC. But the Stormers, they have found their fair share of gaps in opposition defence before. Definitely recently with the way that Sasha's been playing. Running forward was Loader. It's going to be tackled low. Now, pick and go from the Stormers. Is that a rolling maul? I think it is. Even Ruiz decided to go for it. In fact, it might have even been Dan Duplessis, but they have to release him now. Pick and go from Hudson-Berg. 10 metres out from the line and already a penalty advantage in favour of the Stormers side. Passed out to Sinutla. It's getting ugly near the touchline. And they will go back for the original penalty. Now, this is finals rugby, ladies and gents. So the question has to be asked. Do you take the 3? Or do you go for the corner and try and get that early try on the board? Now, I think that the Stormers are an aggressive side, and there is a chance that they could go for either option. In fact, they're probably more opting to go for the corner than going for the 3. But at the same time, like I said, it's finals rugby. You have to take points when they're available. We have got there 3, says Justin, and points always, says Lilia B. Yeah, I think that it would be the smart move. They've had a little bit of an early attack going. Yes, the first line out functioned. And the verdict is they've gone for the line out. So they've pretty much done the opposite of what every single person said. So that's the question. Is it a smart move or is it a really bad one from the Stormers? Good defence so far on the rolling maul from Glasgow, forcing them backwards. Where's that ball though? He's breaking off the back. Big shot coming in from the Warriors defence. Now Stephen Nkura searching for this ball. They're 5 metres out from the line, nearly in for sheer. Still 5. Now, Alistair Vermaak, pick and go. Chance here again for, I believe it is going to be Marcel Tennyson now trying to get those couple extra meters, but the Stormers in a good position on the field to be able to run in, and I think this time it is De Villiers. Has had a crack. I agree with Roof Hamish. You also think your commentary has gotten really good. Well done, mate. Says Henry. Thank you very much. Now Evan Roos gets that little bit closer again, and he's dropped the ball, which is going to cause Glasgow to get themselves the possession. Risky play there, though, and it's knocked on by Hudson-Berg, and it's extremely lucky, as that was almost a mistake made by the Stormers. That was then a mistake after that made by Glasgow, which almost led to the try. And yeah, big turnover. There was no advantage. It was in the process of the tackle, which means this try would have stood. So a pretty risky play there from Glasgow. Of course, trying to shovel it out wide. But in the process of doing so, almost cost themselves a try. I'm excited for this game. Going to be tough, says Samuel. Yeah, these two sides are going to throw absolutely everything at each other. And that's what's going to make it so exciting. We're only 4.5 minutes in. We've already had plenty of action between these two teams. And it's pretty likely we're going to get plenty more in the near future too. But now, scrum just about to take place here. And looks like George Horn has got the scrum feeding responsibilities today. He's also a very handy option when it comes to finding those gaps. And that is going to be another scrum reset. Now, these two sides at scrum time, it's been criticised a little bit in terms of what the Stormers have got out there now after quite a few injuries that they have had to deal with. So I do just wonder whether or not scrums early on, there might be a little bit of, I wouldn't say uncertainty, but probably nervousness coming from this front row. For Marc-Andre Hugo Fenta and Nedeling Faucher, Stormers have had their fair share of injuries when it comes to the props. Same with Glasgow. They probably haven't got the starters that they like to see either. And come on, try time, boys. Bloody hell, don't cock up 5 metres out, says Roger. And the big thing is, they chose to go for the 5 metre line out, but they will get the penalty here, Stormers. So that is a big answer to the question of if this front row was up for it. And Sasha almost thought about taking this one quickly, but I feel like now you've got to go for the points. Yes, they do. You commentated on the next World Cup, says Juan Deli. We are going to be doing the World Cup for the 2027 one. Not so much the official commentary, but just our own on the channel. So, of course, anyone who is new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're also doing the July internationals and also Rugby Championship. A knockout rugby nerves are a given, says Ilya B. And yeah, it just seems like Glasgow, they're defending a lot at the moment. They haven't been able to get out of their own area, which has cost them a bit. But the Stormers, after 6.5 minutes, they will be the first side with points on the board, now leading this game 3-0. That's what you want. Scoreboard pressure in a final can create some indecision, can create some big mistakes from your opposition if you get that lead building nicely. But Glasgow now, they will have the chance to kick it off into the 22. Tom Jordan gets it deep. And now, Stormers going to be tackled within that 22, so this kick from Stephen Nkura can go into touch. World Cup draw happening in December, that is correct, yep. And we will probably end up covering that on the channel too. Stephen Nkura kicks it up high, down towards the halfway line, taken by Glasgow. This is when they're dangerous on the counter-attack. They find gaps that not many sides do. Tom Jordan just created one. And it wasn't going to be an easy one for him. There were about 3 defenders there, but now nice stepping coming from Stafford McDowell. Moving up to 25 metres out from the line now for the Glasgow Warriors, the Stormers. Says Robert, your thoughts on the Club World Cup being talked about for 2028? I'm curious to see how it goes and whether or not it's something that really picks up steam. Nice running forward from Glasgow, 20 metres out from the line now, but they are on the verge of getting some points of their own. Short side, George Horn, little kick in behind it, goes into the in-goal area. Sanutla calls the mark. That's something you don't see too often, a guy marking it from within his in-goal. So I believe that's now a goal line dropout, if I'm correct. There's a room for teams like Barbars and Lions. And today's rugby calendar, correct, yeah. We are going to be still doing those games. But yeah, in terms of the hecticness of the schedule, the good news about the Barbars is it's the guys who have missed out on international rugby. So it doesn't really impact them too much. The Lions, because of the Northern Hemisphere schedule, the way that it works, it actually kind of works quite nicely as well. Although With the British and Irish Lions, this is going to sound like a dumb question, but I can't actually think of any sides. No other teams in terms of Ireland, Scotland and whatnot play in July, do they? Because of the British and Irish Lions? Or do they still have teams that they send over, but they aren't quite as stacked as they normally would be? It looks like Salman Murat is actually going to have to go off the field here. And that looks like it's for an HIA. So that'll bring out JD Schickerling onto the field. Because he can't kick to touch, says Jimbo. Well, he can from within the in-goal area, I guess. But, yeah, it's just something you don't see very often. In fact, that's probably one of the first marks inside of an in-goal that we've actually seen called in a game that we've covered. And we've covered plenty of them. Yeah, Salman Murat does not look too flash at the moment. Oh, no, if you call the mark 5 metres out, you get to take the mark from... Or if you take it in the in-goal area, you get to take it 5 metres out from your line and go for the kick there. We have got there Ireland and France both on tour this summer. Says Jimbo's 4 tries going to be the order of the day. I think we're going to see quite a few. Like, these two sides love scoring bonus points, although Glasgow, they've only scored 2 tries across their last 2 games. So that's 160 minutes of rugby that a side who have the highest line breaks in the competition, or third highest, and defenders beat them the highest. It's a very tricky one for Glasgow. Just because if you're so used to scoring and you haven't been lately, it can hurt the confidence a little bit. Sasha Feinberg and Zulu going for the strip of the ball, but Glasgow still in possession. That is a fantastic run from Kyle Stein, and only a couple metres out from the line. Sinatla, he had his hands on the ground. That's going to be a yellow card. Unfortunately for him, he was about one elbow down from being a try-saving tackler there. Looks like Sasha asking about something that happened earlier on, but Sinatla, if you consider where they were on the field, it's pretty cynical. But it's safe to try. But the question is, how much can the Glasgow Warriors score now within that next 10 minutes? I'd be very surprised if the Stormers get the win, says Albert. And when you visit South Africa, please notify me. I will buy you our very special meat, says Kwandele. Is that like biltong? Or is it something else? Kwandele. They will send teams out for July to use. They use this for blooding young players, says Tiger. Yeah, yellow card for Sinatla. And that now means that Glasgow, they have decided to kick for the corner here. They will go to the front, great set play, and they will score the first try of this URC quarter final. Just a little pop pass up to Rory Darge. The number 10 for Glasgow is dangerous. Yeah, Tom Jordan, he has had a really good season at times. And when he gets it right, he can be absolutely outstanding. And it's just the pace that Glasgow play the game at when they're on attack. You can understand why they beat so many defenders, because it just happens in a flash. But it was just all a part of the line out, going to the front, little pop pass up, a really nice set play. And yeah, trying to make that tackle there was De Villiers, who did pretty well to get to where he did with that amount of time. Something else, just thank you for giving me commentary when I need one, says Juan Dele. And we have there, you're looking fresh. Oh, I've got my bag of crisp and Cadbury whole nut chocolate, says Ruth. And yellow card so early is going to be a problem. Yeah, it's definitely going to fatigue the Stormers side. And unfortunately, that's the thing. Without Sinatla doing what he did, I would say Glasgow probably would have scored anyway in the next couple phases with the amount of momentum that they had moving forward. But now, his decision has cost him 10 minutes, and also it's cost the side one guy on the field and 7 points. And yeah, just managing to run that one through, though, for Rory Darge, who did score the opening try of the contest. Enko Fenta tackled about 15 metres out from his own line. As however, has cuts and meets the whole, or the world haven't heard of. It's Carnival's Paradise, says Albert. Now, be kicked in the Dutch. We've registered the South Sudan Rugby Union, says Brian Powers. So it's always nice when we see new sides popping up in the world of rugby. I think there's about 100 sides in the world rankings, if not maybe more at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see who climbs up. I see Uganda are playing up against Namibia in an upcoming game. That will be an intriguing one. By the way, Hamish, today was my last day of work. I'm officially a parasite of the society, says Sebastian. Well, hopefully you are enjoying I was going to say the unemployment, but probably it will feel like a bit of a holiday for a start. Are you moving on to something else, Seb, or are you hanging up the boots, per se? Now 25 metres out from the line, Stephen Ngura once again will go off to Alistair Vermaak. They're in a good position on the field here, the Stormers. They have one-man disadvantage. They're going for a drop kick here from Sasha Feinberg. Zulu, it hits the post and comes back out, in Glasgow will now have the counter-attacking chance. That's one of those moments that either work or they don't. Now the counter-attack from Glasgow. Perfect passing to Sione Tuipolotu, who sits down being loaded. That's something you don't see too often. Did the conversion go over? It did indeed, so it's 7 points to 3. Awkward bouncing ball. But that Sasha attempted a drop goal has lost has lost the Stormers about 70 metres. But luckily for them, they've got the penalty on their 22. Tell you what, that was a little bit of a hectic bit of play between those two sides, just going back and forth there. Josh Mackay creating that break. He was inside of his 22, decided, you know what, I'm just going to run this one. I'm going to take a break, and who knows, I might end up in a different part of the world trying out things. Says Seb. But they're just saying there, because of no chaser, well, they actually said that Sanutla was going to be chasing that had he not been in the bin, which I think was pretty optimistic, as he would have been quite far away from it. And Dan Sasha has a boot. They have to be careful, though, because such gambles are costly. Glasgow is attacking wild, says Catnap. But the thing is, that moment just there, right, is the exact reason why Willie LaRue, with all the experience that he has at the end of that other game between the Bulls and the Stormers, didn't go for the extra 3. They kicked it out. Glasgow got themselves the losing bonus point. But look, they're still in that 4th place position, so it worked out in the end. But that is the exact reason why. Because Glasgow almost went the full length of the field to score. And in that game, had it hit the post, maybe it could have been the same reality. Andre Hugofenta throwing it in, and it's gone over the top. Sits up now for Glasgow, and their back line will try and function again, although this time it's been dropped by Henko Fenta. I'm really glad Sasha's playing in this game because he really does have some tricks up his sleeve, says Balumko. Now back into the pocket. Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu, going for the little grubber, and behind goes straight into the hands at Glasgow, and once again the counter-attack coming for the Glasgow Warriors. Now 2 kicks in a row from Sasha that have led to attacking chances for the Glasgow Warriors, so that is a bit of a concern, and they are straight through with Josh Mackay. Ball on the outside, skip pass to Kyle Stain. Manages to put in the fence. Sasha puts in the low tackle. Trying to work that ball away. George Horn having his hands on it, going back across to the left-hand side. Penalty advantage in favour of Glasgow. They will try the kick in behind. Tui Pelotu spots the space. Bounce to the ball is good, and Glasgow will get themselves another try. That is what happens when you give away possession when you've got 14 men on the field. You leave yourself susceptible to the attack, and that is exactly what Glasgow did. Seb joins exclusive club at an early age. Says Flesh in there. But that is a massive try for Glasgow at a very important time. That yellow card is still in play. Oh my goodness, says Balomko. Yeah, Sasha having to make the tackle, trying to make up for that missed opportunity with the grubber. And then Tui Pelotu realised, because they were with 15 on the field and the opposition, the Stormers only had the 14, meant that the gap was there to kick it through to nightmare start for the Stormers. That's the thing, the first 6 minutes went well, then that yellow card happened. And from there, Glasgow have now matched the amount of tries they've had from their last 2 games in just the first 16 minutes. Off to the pub to watch it, lads and lasses. Enjoy, says Jimbo. And that one has gone over from George Horn, now making the score 14 points to 3 for the Glasgow Warriors. If they want to get something going here, the Stormers, they have to survive this yellow card period. Still probably another 3 or so minutes, but that is a perfect kick in behind from Tui Pelotu, but that was because of the exposed space of having 14 on the field. One of the commentators saying he literally looked where he wanted to go for a while and still managed to make it happen. Thanks, mate. Excellent, accurate coverage. Come on, the Stormers, says Raymond. And that's the thing. The Stormers have come back from deficits before, but their best chance is to just ride out this 10 minutes. So many pundits in South Africa say Stormers will win. I just laughed, says Albert. I mean, to be fair, they're one of the lowest underdogs. Oh, that's going to be a bit of a skew-whiffed kick from Glasgow, which will now bring a 22-metre line out for the Stormers here. Sasha, keep things simple, says Fareed. Yeah, at the moment he's trying to create, which is all well and good when you've got the 15 on the field and you've got someone back to be able to cover. But that one was literally scored because of the huge gap of not having an extra member of your back three. Salman Moura back on the field? I don't believe so. I think that it is still JD Schickerling, so that's also a big hit that the Stormers have taken. Yes, people like to criticise Salman Moura a lot, but when it comes to the lineouts and the Stormers, you know, Bok-wise, he gets a lot of stick, but Stormers-wise, he's a solid player and he can add a lot to this forward pack. They're only 22 metres out from the line here, though. The Stormers have got the ball in hand for the first time in what feels like quite some time. And Stormers lost the same game last year against Glasgow, 27-10. The end score in that contest is still kind of on the cards here in terms of the possibility. Have the Stormers shown any signs of moving the ball around and creating any space? They have a little bit. Like, we saw a very nice opening bit of play from them. Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu trying to shovel it on, trying to find a gap, get this one moving. But yeah, like, they've made some decent meters. Glasgow's defence is the best in the comp in terms of numbers, though, and they've got over the ball, which will bring them back for the original penalty in favour of the Stormers. Right. I wonder whether or not take the 3 here. Straight out in front of the posts. Get the extras on the board. That Glasgow pitch looks very small, says Fleshen. And Glasgow is 200% better at home outside of the Bulls and Ospreys matches. And we have to get the Stormers in the chat from Unbiased. And Lebok in the team. Can't remember if he left the team or injured or even playing. He's off the bench in this matchup. So, looks like Sasha Feinberg and Ngome Zulu will once again have the opportunity to add 3. Better to take the 3 now. Exactly right. Rather than going for anything risky, just get those 3 points on the board. They'll only be down by the 8. And I believe that yellow card would all but be up. And good work, Hamish, says Albert. And there as well. Take the 3, says Jonathan. Yeah, it was something that they turned down earlier on in the match. And no mention of Hallant. I honestly haven't seen him once. Or I don't think we've said his name once. Which is a bit of a concern when you consider that one of the tries that Glasgow scored was because of a massive amount of space in behind. So I don't know whether or not Hallant has tried to shift out to cover a little bit for Sinatler as well. But yeah, certainly not the start to the match that Hallant would have wanted. Stormers will come back, still early minutes. Exactly right, still plenty of time. They've got a phenomenal bench in this match. Plenty of time to be able to work with. A good clear and kick from Stephen Nkura. Doesn't manage to find touch though, so it will be 55 metres out from the Stormers line. Glasgow with a counter-attacking chance. And that's where they've been dangerous throughout this game. They've already made over 100 metres from doing this exact thing to the halfway line, and still with the man advantage. Tui Piloto shovels it on, going off to the left-hand side. Kyle Stain just getting held up. Wasn't able to get that next pass away. Very nice tackle by Hudsonberg. Recently brought up his 50th cap. And Lebok would have been a good cover for fullback since Damien Valimza is out. I was going to add attacking flair. That's the thing. I thought that maybe they would go with Lebok at 10 and then have Sasha at 15. And did Sasha get it through? He didn't. He did, yes, sorry. So yeah, 6 points to 14. Scoreboard's a little bit sleepy today, it would seem. It's currently 7 a.m. in New Zealand and only updates occasionally. That's going to be another drop ball. It's going to be Glasgow's ball due to the knock-on coming from the Stormers. Do you know who is on the bench for the Stormers? I certainly do, and not only that, I will show you who is on the bench. There you go. So Joseph Dweber there as the number 16. They've got Herschel Yankees and Mani Libok as their back replacements. And already we have seen JD Schickerling make his way onto the field. That was due to the injury that did come for Salman Moura. But there's no guarantee that Moura can't come back onto the field for this match. Now, going to be that scrum feed. The first one was won by the Stormers, so they will feel quietly confident heading into the scrum, I would think. And Sasha missed it, says Faridi did get that 3-pointer over. Did miss the drop kick earlier on. Do you think Williams' punishment is suitable? I think it's a pretty harsh one in terms of what it means. The fact that he could be missing half of the Springboks games taking place in July, and then also the fact that he's missing more than likely all these playoff games. But at the same time, I feel like the Stormers, they shot themselves in the foot. because they were leading that game up against Cardiff by a very comfortable margin, but they were the ones who said you need to check that try, to which the officials did, and then went, okay, that try's cleared, but we've found something that happened against Damien Valimza. So if it had just been accepted as a try, they wouldn't have found that, and it would have been fine. He would still be playing in these games. But it was the question, the query of whether or not they could get one try disallowed in a game that they didn't need tries disallowed. They were already winning by enough. That ended up costing the Stormers and costing Valimza's spot here. Now George Horn going off to the left-hand side, nice ball, but it's going to be dropped by Stafford McDowell. A bit of a rare error there from Glasgow. Normally on attack they are so clinical, but one's gone down, and probably a good thing for the Stormers as, once again, there was the gap starting to open up. Where there I have a question, who do you think is going to be in the final of Super Rugby Pacific? I do think at the moment, even though the Crusaders did struggle, they have a pretty good chance of making it far in the comp. Definitely if Will Jordan does return in the near future from his injury. And then in terms of the other side, I mean, the Chiefs are just looking the real deal at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's Chiefs Crusaders, but there is also a chance that someone who is outside of those top two, maybe even outside of the top three, could cause a bit of an upset and push themselves to the later stages of the comp. Now ready to put this ball in. And it's going to be the penalty now going the way of the Stormers. So they have been good at scrum time. Somewhere that perhaps later on in this contest they can help themselves back into the contest. John Dobson taking the headset off momentarily. A little bit of frustration for that man. Now Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu, he will be able to kick this one towards the sideline. They are back to the 15 on the field now for the Stormers. That's a pretty decent kick downfield, about 40 metres out from Glasgow's line. Another interception try coming soon, and go the Stormers, you need the win. Says Logan. And also, we have got Leave Money Alone for now. We have a good team for now, says Samuel. And also Glasgow is coached by a Springbok, says Fareed. Do you think South Africa has a chance to win the World Cup 3 times in a row? They've got a pretty decent crack, I'd say, with the players that they've got coming through the rankings, as well as the veterans who will still be available. Now going off to the left-hand side, Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu. Great low tackle made. Back across to the left-hand side. Little bit of a step there from Loader. Sitting 40 metres out from the line, but Glasgow create the rolling maul. Netball's not coming out of there for the Stormers. Brilliant defence from the home side, and it does mean now they have another scrum. Try Stormers, says Logan. Unless it's off a penalty of a quick tap. May not quite be the chance that the Stormers were after. Come on, the Stormers, says Lionel. I'm nervous, says Bruce. To be fair, it's been a little bit of a, I would say in some regards, a bit of a shaky start for the Stormers. First 6 minutes they were on fire, getting really far up the field. It's Dion Foree starting in this game. He is not, and he's also not off the bench in this contest. Unfortunately for Foree, has had quite a few injuries to have to deal with. Is an absolute workhorse in those breakdowns though, so they would have loved to have him. De Villiers, the man who does get the start instead, can still of course get the job done. And hopefully next World Cup draw will not be a mess. We have top 4 teams play each other so early, says Patrick. Yeah, they are going to be doing the draw in December this year, so it's still relatively early that they are announcing it. And another Stormers free kick. Glasgow scrum has been getting, I guess you could say, battered in this contest. Jamie Butty really struggling to find his momentum. Stormers cracking under pressure here. I think that both sides have shown signs of nervousness and a bit of pressure on them. Looks like they're going for the up and under here for the Stormers rather than going for the free kick. So this one will come down only about 10 metres out from the line. Sits up for Sinutla, and it's the try. That is what you call, ladies and gents, a lucky bounce and a perfect one for the Stormers as they are back in the contest. I don't think that was the prediction of what they were trying to do. I think it was more so hope for the knock-on or hope to retain the ball off the high kick rather than no one getting a hand to it. It bouncing steeply. Oh, hang on. Are we checking this? What did it hit? I think it was his foot in there for Sinutla. And if that is the case, it's a try. And just Josh Mackay not able to get back, but a bit of a different strategy to what you would normally see. But the kick has gone over, and that now makes the score 14 points to 13. So back to the 15 on the field. Seems to be doing wonders for the Stormers side. And yes, there's Balumko, and come on the Stormers, See Bradley there. Yeah, we're seeing the replay. It came off the foot of Sanatla, so it was completely fine. Trying to make up for those 2 tries scored throughout the time that he was off the field. He still needs another one, Sanatla, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it. Now, nicely taken by the Stormers inside of their 22 for Hudsonberg, who we have hardly seen since he has made a switch to 13, and that is a penalty now against him for not releasing in the breakdown. Temo found something they did not. No, it was just they showed the other angle where it clearly showed coming off Sanatla's boot rather than his hand, so yeah, try was good. I don't think the Highlanders missed Josh Mackay. Don't you? They finished dead last in the competition. So I feel like they probably do miss him a little bit. There go the Stormers, says Samuel. And the Stormers are storming back, says Ruth. And I've decided to go for the corner here, Glasgow. This was an easy 3 as well, it should be mentioned. They decided rather than going for that 3 points to give them the 17 points to 13 lead, they're going to try a rolling maul out and see how that gets on. Their last try did come from a maul set play. In fact, that was their first try of the match for Rory Dash. And when Temo comes on after a try, get nervous. There's Xander. Now ready to throw this ball in. They do get it to the front off to Cummings. Rolling maul. Chance here for Glasgow. That is moving very nicely. They're about 1 metre short of the line. Really nice defence from the Stormers to be able to stop it, but on the short side, Henko Fenta gets himself the try. The loose forwards at the moment for Glasgow are having a field day. And that is not what the Stormers wanted after working so hard to get back into the game, just to have that try straight after. And I know, says Popello in there, but the rolling maul has led to 2 tries here for Glasgow, although it wasn't so much the rolling maul, it's the line-out set piece that is getting the job done. And high-scoring game, says Eric. Yeah, it certainly is. Glasgow have only scored 12 points from their last 2 games. 160 minutes of rugby for 12 points. In this game, they played 28 minutes, and they're already on 19. There's going to be a high-scoring game. Dan, that was quick, says Wimar, and that's the danger. You know, off the kickoff, Stormers give away the penalty, and then Glasgow goes straight after, go for the line-out rather than taking the 3 and looking to add the extra 2 now is George Horn. Nice try from South African. Says Albin, and thanks for commentating the game to us. That can't afford to watch live. Big fan of your channel from a Stormers fan, says Rennie. I do appreciate you being here. Looks like Horn just not quite connecting with that one the way he would have liked, so the score will remain at 19 points to 13. The Glasgow try conversion rate is intense. They're outplaying the Stormers here. Stormers tackle success is low. Something needs to happen, says Catnap. Speaking of something to happen, Marnie Libok looks like he's about to make his way onto the field. We're only 29 minutes in. I think that's maybe for Warakalant, because we haven't even seen him in the first half of this contest so far. But Henko Fenta again getting those few extra metres for his side. Referee telling them to use it. Marnie Magic to save the Stormers. Says Eric. Yeah, that one's going to be kicked in a touch by Glasgow. Who is the man going off the field? Is it Warakalant? Or is it maybe an injury somewhere? Okay, Dan Duplessis struggling with a bit of an injury here. So that is who Marnie Libok is making his way onto the field for. Only 30 minutes in. And that is now the back replacement done for the Stormers, with the exception of Herschel Yankees. I'll put Libok at 10 and Sasha Feinberg Ngume Zulu at number 15. Yeah, I think it would work quite nicely. The other option I think they might go with is 10 Libok, 12 Sasha. And just shuffle him over one in that back line. Nicely thrown in by Andre Hugo Fenta. First receiver now is Marnie Libok. So it does look like they've made that switch of putting Sasha into the inside centre role. Now Ruben van Heeren going to be held up again by Glasgow, but eventually wrestles himself to the turf. 19 after scoring only 12 the whole season is crazy. Considering Stormers score more tries, I hope. Says you're rough. Or scoring in the last 2 games, they've got the 12 points. But in terms of clean breaks and whatnot, the Stormers, Glasgow are right up there. That is a penalty now going the way of the Stormers, though. Right. Decision needs to be made. Do they also run the gauntlet and go for the corner, or do they just say we're happy enough taking the 3s when available? What is the decision here? Marnie Libok, they are kicking for the corner. Both of these sides playing with a lot of aggression here. Now, they are currently down by the 6 points. So, of course, a converted try would get them in a much better position in the overall standings. Well, in terms of the overall standings of this game, that is. But yeah, nice step from Josh Mackay, but then Evan Ruiz straight on him. Take the 3, says Sakabula. So this is now the second 3-pointer that the Stormers have turned down. Now, looking at the scoreboard, had they taken both those 3s, they would be currently sitting drawing. And we have there, what's wrong with Alant? At work, can't watch the game. Your commentary awesome, says John. Thank you very much. I actually don't know what's happening with them in this game. Like, we've just not seen him. I'm sure he'd be a part of some of the attacking plans. All short play there from the Stormers, going with a pop pass up to Evan Ruiz, who was dragged down only 3 metres out from the try line. Chance here for the Stormers to be able to fire back and perhaps even take the lead in this contest. Now, Stormers pick and go from Ruben van Heeren. Glasgow getting told to stay on side. Almost ended up with a turnover there. A little bit of a lack of ball security for the Stormers as Glasgow try and go over the top again, but this time it's illegal it was the number 6 Fury. Now 5 metres out from the line again, and it's going to be another penalty. Little bit of push and shove there between Evan Ruiz and Gregor Hiddleston. Now, in this type of game, Ruiz has to keep his temper, because if he lets that one flow, that's when the type of penalties can go against you for doing something silly. Still Stormers stiffing the bag for the South right now. I woke up early for this, not really. I'm up because my dog is barking at a ghost. Says you're rough. And now taking the quick tap for Andre Hugo Fenta, so the Stormers. That is a third 3-pointer that they've turned down. Evan Ruiz almost held up and just short of the try line. That ball is on the verge of going over and it's unplayable. In fact, it's called as held up. So that means that the Stormers have blundered the chance to score the try. The right time is off here. What's happening here? Looks like it's a TMO check. Maybe they haven't blundered that chance. And what a battle, says Rube. So they are just checking to see whether or not there is a grounding on the line first here, or whether it is just going to be the no try. See the replay now, though. Initial decision was not a try for Evan Ruiz. He was held up initially. That's very close to the line. Okay, I don't need you, so back you go. That last little shot made it look like maybe there was a touch of the ball on that line. Looks short, says Patrick, and pretty full-on game. Love to see it. Yeah, it's exactly what we wanted for the quarterfinals. Two sides throwing absolutely everything at each other, not leaving anything to chance of just trying to find a way to the semis. And there will be a couple one-sided semis I will mention in other matches of the quarterfinals. Or sorry, of the quarters rather than the semis. But yeah, hopefully we get one more game like this throughout the weekend. They're just checking this one for quite some time. Normally when they check it multiple times with multiple angles, normally they'd say no. Like they said, initially was short of the line by like this much. And then maybe moves it just onto the line by the end. But I think they're going to say, okay, that's still short there. Okay. Commentator saying, okay, it's going to be no try. Okay. They're going to be short of the line. 5 metre scrum is the decision that is made. So it does mean that the Stormers will still have a pretty decent attacking chance. As a try, says Notabeko. And also we have got there no try. And does it look like a try? It did look like there was a couple frames where that ball may have gone forward. But from the other angle, there was a hand in front of it. So that makes it quite tricky to be able to give it. Okay. I think Kyle Stain just having a little bit of a conversation here with the ref about the scrums. Now, you don't normally see the wingers giving advice to a ref about what happens in a scrum, but there you go. Okay, I think Kyle Stain was actually asking about a knock-on before all of that did take place. Okay, at least. Now we have got there. I nearly forgot to hit the like button, man. It feels good pressing that like button. Says you're rough. Yeah, anyone who hasn't already, be sure, of course, to hit that subscribe button alongside the like button. We've got the 3 other quarterfinals taking place on the channel in the near future, all happening tomorrow. Now, they are in New Zealand time, this one that I've got here. One moment, there we go. But to pretty much convert that to South African time, that game's going to be taking place at 1:30 South African time for the Bulls versus Edinburgh. Leinster versus Scarlets at 4, and then 6:30 p.m. kickoff for the Sharks versus Munster. Who was that? Someone just went off the field. The crowd are clapping, so that would make me think it was a Glasgow guy, but I have no idea who that injury was. They had a guy right in the way of the camera. They need to upgrade cameras to save X-rays to see through players, says Xander. But now they've got the penalty advantage. 5 metres out from the line. Sasha Feinberg. Ngumad Zulu, can he create some magic? He's run straight at the wall. That is Glasgow and has dropped the ball. But now once again, looks like the Stormers are going for a quick tap, or at least considered it. Right, last warning here for Glasgow. They might find themselves with a man disadvantage in the near future if they're not careful. But we also need to remember that if the Stormers don't score from this, they have had so many times that they've turned down 3 points that they haven't been willing to take the shot at the post. Right, sort it out now or someone else goes is the comment from Andrew Brace. That is a pretty definitive last warning. In terms of anything else that happens now will lead to someone making their way from the field. And it does look like once again they have called for the scrum here, the Stormers. They have been pretty strong in terms of getting that one moving forward in these type of scenarios. A Munster match tomorrow, followed by Champions League final. Not a bad Saturday night. Says Patrick, a yellow card and try coming. Says Eric, and hi, are you hosting the Blues game tonight? We certainly are. Blues taking on the Waratahs. That will confirm someone's spot in the top 6 just for that moment, and then they will have to wait to see whether or not they keep that spot with the game after that, Moana versus Hurricanes. But ball going to be fed in now by Stephen Nkura. Nope, Jamie Buddy stood up and walked away. I mean, I've heard of a walk-off knockout in the UFC and whatnot, but a walk-off scrum's a bit unique. He's got to get in there and do the scrum. Can the Blues go through? They can if they win and Moana Pacifica lose. And Munster match tomorrow. And yellow card for Glasgow, not quite, but they are pretty much on their last warning now. Any more that they end up giving away, they will be going to the bin. Now, ball going to be fed in here. And Storm and Scrum is strong and good, says Notobeko. And that was another really good push there from the Stormers, trying to get that advantage. They haven't quite earned it here. Ref's going to say play on. Evan Russ trying to break away. The Stormers need the try. They've been on attack for about 10 minutes here and haven't been able to get that next one that they're after. They're down by 6. Backline movement. No, in fact, they decide to just take the first contact. Now firing it out wide. Low tackle made on Evan Ruiz again. Ball's there for the Stormers. Rush defense from Kyle Steyn. Maybe a little bit early. Could have found himself in a bit of trouble. Glasgow each breakdown trying to get that steal, but struggling to be able to do so. Stephen Nkura goes back across to Paul de Villiers. And the thing is, for the Stormers, if they don't score here, that is a huge one for the confidence. Because if you have attacked for this long, 5 metres out from the line and can't get over, here comes Marnie Libok though. Goes off to Sasha. Feinberg, Ngumad Zulu, standing start, and he's knocked the ball on. And that is the last mistake that the Stormers needed. Tom Jordan shouting in his face saying, I'm the fly half now. And that is unbelievable defence there. Sasha under pressure, says Eric. And yeah, just trying to create something. Once again, I'll mention it. They've turned down about 4 chances at 3 points here for the Stormers. So they had to score it. And it's the pressure tackle from Henko Fenta that dislodged the ball from Sasha. And ends up with the scrum now. But this is not out of the woods, because most times when we've had a scrum, it's either been the ball going the way of the Stormers through a penalty, or you see the frustration there on the face of the coach, John Dobson, knowing that that was their chance to just finish it off. It was out quick to the yellow card lapse, says Roger. So they were on their last yellow card, or like warning before a yellow card. But because Glasgow didn't end up giving away that penalty in the end, they didn't end up with someone in the bin as of yet. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't. So they will probably go a little bit more aggressive. A Munster to muster the monster tomorrow. You know what, it's going to have to be a big performance from Munster, although the Sharks at times have shown a bit of inconsistency, which would be one bonus for them. How long is the red card off field? In these games, I believe red is the whole match. If I'm correct, I don't think that this comp has incorporated the 20-minute red. Yeah, he's trying to do something special. This is where he needs the Pollard or Carter temperament. Says Catnap. And Sasha needs to do what they are saying about him. Because he looks like his high school days are lots under pressure. And Rassi must be their team leader for the Stormers. Says Mocha then, but that one's going to be kicked in touch by George Horn. Now with just the 3 minutes on the clock. If Glasgow can go into halftime 19 points to 13 up, I think they'll be pretty happy with the amount that they've had to defend from inside of their 22. I don't even know what the numbers would be, but it's got to be close to 10 minutes of attack for the Stormers throughout this half. And Scarlets will upset Leinster tomorrow. It would be a massive upset, wouldn't it, if they were able to pull off the underdog story. Now, I do think that someone's going to have an underdog win. Big run from Sasha. Now, Nkura goes across to Evan Ruiz. It seems to be that 5 metres out using the forwards isn't quite working for the Stormers, so perhaps it is this attack coming from a bit further out that could actually work for them. Sasha going to cost the Stormers, says Fareed. Now Mani Libok tries to step, all well protected by the Stormers. Glasgow 9 is the worst kick I've ever seen. Don't even get 10 metres kicks, says Eric. Good pressure coming in on Alistair Vermaak. Nkura now goes off to JD Schickerling. Oh, injury for Talakai. He's already come on as a replacement. Little kick him behind. Attempted by Sasha again, and it's gone straight in the hands of Glasgow. Evan Ruiz trying to get the turnover there. Will they go for the kick here, Glasgow, or will they go for the counter-attack? And Scarlets are better than everyone thinks, says Albert. Yeah, they've got a pretty good squad overall. Now rolling this one back for George Horn, who will once again have the opportunity to kick it towards the sideline. Chasing after this one will be Kyle Rowe. He went up for it, but Ben Loader is the man who comes down with it. Now Nkura back across to the left-hand side. Off to the left again. They've said that Ben Loader is actually the captain at the moment. A little bit of a juggle there from Sasha Feinberg, Unguman Zulu, and another knock-on coming from the Stormers. Their hands what are letting them down. We're in dry conditions. It looked like the perfect day for rugby and a perfect day for a line break there for Tom Jordan. He is all by himself and the ball stolen by Sinatla, who gets it across to the Villiers. And now the counter-attack for the Stormers. It's another knock-on though. And it means that the Glasgow Warriors will have the scrum feed with about 90 seconds remaining in the half. Really, Stormers, says Salah. And Sasha will get camp language halftime, says Fareed, and no man, says Justin. Butterfingers, yeah, unfortunately just dropping the ball far too often. Tom Jordan just breaking away. It was beautifully done by Sinatlu, who managed to rip that ball before Tom Jordan even got to the ground. And we have got there, Stormers too nervous, says Ruth. But the thing is, at the moment, they aren't out of this game. They're down by 6. Why are there so many knock-ons? Unfortunately, just the handling issues at the moment. Nettling Fauchier having a long conversation there with Andrew Brace about something that's happened. They're going to be checking it. And Stormers should have taken those 2 shots at the post. I agree. Like, at the time, it was very easy to say if they score, it pays off. But in the whole scheme of the match, when you look at what's happened from there, I do think that being 19-19 at this point in time, rather than being 19-13 down, would have boded a lot better. As URC more popular in Super Rugby, says Tyrone. I think it has more viewers, if I'm not wrong. Bigger audience to have. URC, what would you even say? URC, like, popularity numbers, population. I don't even know what the word would be for it. URC views per week. Oh, that doesn't work for views per week because more games taking place, of course. And well, it could have been a lot worse for the Stormers. The second half, the Storm needs to get some handball. Resin on the go, says Blockchain. And Storm is very much in it, says Giovanno. And 6 points is better than none. Should have taken the 3, says Roof. Definitely in finals rugby. They say it time and time again. You got to take your points when they're available. Viewership. That's the word, isn't it? So URC viewership 40 total audience in 2023-24 of 47.7. Super Rugby, chance there for Tui Pelotu. And then Super Rugby had 2.1 concurrent viewers for one game at one point, but that doesn't mean that they've had that many for all the games. In fact, a lot of them would have been a lot lower. Then nice steal there from the Stormers. I think Tui Pelotu was asking for the penalty of his own, and he's been March 10. That's what you can't afford to be doing. Obviously having a bit of a crack at the referee. Good attack and run from Josh Mackay initially, and then got Kyle Staines only about 10 metres out. Yeah, okay. Probably, reasonable question there from Sione Tui Pelotu, as there was a Stormers guy on their side of the breakdown, but doesn't mean that you can have a crack at the ref. They just kick it into touch there. The Stormers, half-time is upon us, and it's 19 points to 13. Stormers dodge a bullet there, says Salah. I'm a Sharks fan, but I'm so mad. So I'm mad most times, says Yuraf. The ball's 100% switched on tomorrow, says Sakabola. And what's up with the elementary mistakes from our boys' big match temperament, letting them down, says Roger. Yeah, they needed those points that they turned down earlier on, just to give them that little bit more confidence, I feel. And Stormers having an off day, it seems, says Xander. And that's the thing. They've still had a couple decent moments throughout this half. It's just the fact that, 10 minutes of attacking to not be able to cross that try line just hurts. Yes, they scored once, but of course that was all after that I'm talking about, where they weren't able to get over. Is that Murrayfield in the background? It is. The reason behind it is I tried to put the Glasgow Warriors home stadium in the background, and my streaming software said, nah, not doing it. So we went with Murrayfield rather than just a random stadium from around the world. Not taking the 3 points is like a man with hole in the pocket, says Bruce. And we have got there Glasgow having an on day, says Catnap. I mean, they are doing what Glasgow normally do, but this is also very far from the best Stormers performance that we've seen in recent times. They're making the basic errors that normally they would be a bit more clinical with. Sasha's having a bit of an off game, probably about a 3 or 4 out of 10 currently. And for them to be able to win, I think that him and Lebok need to find at least 8s for both of them. We have got there, what time is the Bulls game, says Mohadin. That game, we will go like this and like that. All the times in New Zealand. But it will be a 1:30 p.m. kickoff for the Bulls versus Edinburgh happening tomorrow. So hopefully that makes sense. But we will be scheduling the live stream a few hours beforehand. So it will be nice and easy to follow what is happening. But yeah, all of the home teams are considered as not finalists, but considered as favourites heading into their games. It just shows what a home field advantage can do. Currently, Glasgow trying to use theirs, the crowd behind them. According to AI, URC has an average 30k match in person, 450k globally. Super Rugby is 11k match, 500k globally. Interesting. So more people go to the URC games, but more people view Super Rugby. I wouldn't have actually guessed that. I know that Super Rugby attendance is quite low at times because of a lack of people going. Where can I stream the game? Says Pharrell, do you have a VPN, Pharrell? Because if you do, I have some great news for you. And that is that you can probably watch it free to air somewhere in the world with that VPN. I can tell you where, but first, do you have one? And Glasgow is cutting us up. Stormers need to spread the ball faster whilst close to the try line. Evan Ruz is also making too many mistakes. Says T7, very strange kickoff times for the Bulls at Loftus. Says Albert, it is a little bit. We've seen kickoffs at that time throughout the season for the URC, just not normally for that Loftus contest. It's sad because I also support the Hurricanes and they suck too. Says Yuraf, although they're in the top 6. That's one thing that is definitely confirmed. They will have a spot in the playoff finals. Still gets a little bit, I guess, I'm still getting used to saying the playoff finals, as it's been a bit of an interesting layout, I guess you could say. However, there come on Stormers, man, do it for Cornell Hendricks and for us here in the home or at home in Cape Town. Says Leon Johannes. That Sasha Feinberg drop goal went through, he'd be goated, says Catnap. But yeah, hit the post, and then from there, Glasgow gained 80 metres. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because those little moments can win you games, but they can also lose you them. I don't think that moment's going to be the difference, though. I think we are still going to see a lot more points throughout the second half, but this is the way that the benches look. We've already seen Marnie Libok make his way onto the field. That was due to the injury of Dan Duplessis. Selma Mura also has not returned to the field, so JD Schickerling has stayed on for him. Talakai was on for the Glasgow Warriors after an early injury of Murphy Walker, but he was then injured. So Glasgow, if they're not careful, could end up with uncontested scrums here due to injuries and playing with less men on the field for the rest of the contest. They could also end up with a yellow card soon, as they did have their last warning near the end of the first half. But they have got Johnny Matthews. They have got, like I mentioned, Talakai. Here's the one man who has made his way onto the field. Still have Max Williamson as an option there too. And we have got the evening tight game, very tight. At the moment, Glasgow have looked like the better side, but the Stormers still have enough X factor across this lineup to be able to finish off the game if they can find a bit of momentum. How do Springboks playing but Stormers do bad? Says Mohandina. It's a good question. Like, they are a pretty stacked side. I think that it's just been the adjustment of not having Damien Valimza. Losing him last week, or the week prior, sorry, but last match has really hurt the cohesion of this backline. We haven't even seen Warwick Gallant throughout that first half. And we have got there, in your opinion, who has been a standout player for each team in the first half? I think for the Glasgow Warriors, Josh Mackay, as well as Tom Jordan, have really been stepping up. And then also some very decent runs from Kyle Stain too. Then in terms of the Stormers, I would say if Sinatla hadn't had his yellow card, I'd say him. But I do also think that, I mean, someone like a Ruben van Heeren hasn't been going too bad. And also we've got to give a lot of credit to that front row because they've been able to win multiple penalties and have got Glasgow on their last warning. Viewership numbers are skewed though, because South African stadiums hold way more than many of the other teams. And Scott Stinner's only got 5k capacity. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a tricky one. I guess that's the same slightly in New Zealand in terms of, I think Apollo Projects holds 13,000, whereas, you know, Eden Park can hold around that 40. So, yeah, it's a bit tricky. And I do think that Glasgow, I was going to say, would have more sellout games if they had a bigger stadium too, but I see a few empty seats around for this quarterfinal, which is quite surprising, seeing as it is the quarterfinal and possibly the last Glasgow Warriors home game that they will have. Sasha Feinberg and Zulu needs tuning because we just get a noise, says Albert. As their games next week, there are the semi-finals. They are going to be taking place. Just to show it there, Leinster, if they win their game, they'll be taking on the winner of this contest between Glasgow and the Stormers, and that would be at home for Leinster. And then if the Scarlets were able to win it, they would still be playing Glasgow or the Stormers, but Glasgow or Stormers would have the home field advantage for that match. So there is a chance that we see both semi-finals taking place in South Africa. But for that to happen, the Stormers would have to win here as an underdog, and also the Scarlets would have to win as an underdog. So it's unlikely, but not impossible. One moment, I'm about to sneeze again, so I will very quickly mute. We are good, hopefully. Bit of hay fever already around the 7:30 a.m. in the morning. But our next live stream, it's going to be taking place at 4:30 p.m. New Zealand time, ladies and gents. That will be the game taking place between the Blues and the Waratahs. A very important one for the outcome of both of those sides' seasons. And also one moment, we'll go like that. And like that. There we go, Nene. I must come back to the box instead of being around ungrateful Irish players, says Fareed. And Sasha had an awful first half, and he's one of the guys who has had the most pressure on him throughout this game, both literally and figuratively. Because figuratively, is there an R in that word? I think there might be. But yeah, he's one of the guys who's been hugely talked up heading into this game, and people have said if the Stormers are going to win, it's going to be because of him, and that's a lot of weight on a young player. Like, yes, he's had some very good games this season, but he's also had some pretty shaky ones and needs a much better second half. And they can't even replace him if he ends up making too many more mistakes or gets injured, unless they want to put on Herschel Yankees in his position due to the early injury of Dan Duplessis. And Sasha Feinberg and Zulu overplaying himself a bit. And we in Ireland I can use bigger stadiums like Croke Park, which holds 80 plus, and Pierre Ground in Cork, 45,000. Remember, Glasgow play at home soil, says Samuel. Exactly right. The last time that these two sides played in a quarterfinal in Glasgow, the Glasgow Warriors winning at 27 points to 10 was the end score there. I think second half, we are not a mile away from seeing the other games that are taking place, like we mentioned earlier on. It's going to be Leinster versus Scarlets that will determine the other side of this draw. And then the other matches, Bulls and the Sharks, both at home up against Edinburgh and Munster. So the question mark that I have, ladies and gentlemen, this game's looking pretty close at this current point in time. Which game for this weekend do you feel will be the closest? Is it this match? Or are we going to see Munster really push the Sharks? Or maybe Edinburgh try and get a bit of redemption up against the Bulls? Or could it even be the plot twist that Scarlets can somehow, as a $15 underdog, keep that game competitive and find a way over the line? Do let me know. And OMG, my dog was barking at something. It was a roo in my backyard. Says Ruff. Which stadium is biggest in New Zealand? I believe Eden Park is the largest. Like Sky Stadium, in terms of like ground size, is probably one of the bigger ones. But there's a lot of space that isn't taken up by seats. Right. Oh. Uh-oh. Someone's in trouble. They've just asked a constable to report to the incident control room. Someone's been heavily on the beverages, I would say, and has fallen over. We appreciate we appreciate Hamish very much. Lovely every weekend he entertains us, says Ruth. And also, boys from the Cape, definitely not out of it. They need to pull your finger halftime talk from the coach. Come on, Stormers, bring on the storm, says Roger. And also we have got there, remember Glasgow play at home soil. Sharks and Munster is the closest game. Sharks versus Munster going to be a thriller, says Sakabola. Yeah, so it does seem to be the general consensus is that game's going to be the one that really lights the quarterfinals on fire. The thing is, though, this one's still been a very entertaining close match. So an opportunity for the second half to be just as close, if not closer, as the Glasgow Warriors make their way out of the tunnel. They need a big 40 minutes here. We swap you the roof full of box, says ARC. They are just saying there the 6-point difference. It's a nice lead to have, but I don't think it's enough. I think they're going to need more. The Sharks will wake up in the last 20 again, says Sakabula. And the thing is, the Stormers could actually do the same thing here because they have got a great bench in regards to some of their players, and their scrum has been dominant throughout this match. So that is the other massive bonus that they have got, that they can use that scrum as one of their key weapons in this match. I have to say, the DJ's doing a great job at the ground as well. He's really getting the crowd fired up. Munster, I say, will keep it tight. They need some tactical kicking here. Look at the space behind the defensive line and put pressure, says Catnap. And I should play for the Stormers. I don't think I'd do very well for the Stormers. I think that they'd rather have me sacked, I would think. But now, Stephen Nkura for the box kick here. Almost charged down by the big man Cummings, but it's taken on the halfway line now by Glasgow. They love a counterattack. One of the most clinical across the competition and being able to do so. Talakai continuing in this match, even through his injury. What are the stats regarding clean breaks? They're going to be a heavy Glasgow advantage. That's going to be a nice step from Tui Pilotu. They almost got themselves another one. We will get that stat up for you as well. Now, on the halfway line here for Glasgow, just trying to find their way through. They're being told to use it. Looks like rolling it back. Horn will once again be going for the box kick. In terms of clean breaks at the moment, they have had 10 compared to the 1 of the Stormers. Defenders beaten 21 compared to 11. And the possession at the moment is 61% in favour of the Stormers. Out wide though for Glasgow. Ball on the inside. It was close to forward. And there's going to be the advantage here. And they will go back for the original scrum. I think we'll see a very different performance for the Sharks tomorrow. There's knockouts and they will deliver, says Lilia B. And should Yankees come on? I mean, Nkura hasn't been doing terribly And up the Blues, who was making the top 6, Moana Blues or Waratahs. Personally, I think the Blues will, which I'm sure you'll be very happy about, Tim. But, like, they also can't underestimate the Tars, or else they might open up the door for another Aussie side to make the top 6. But, like, at Eden Park, if they get beaten by the Tars, it's going to sound harsh, but with their winning record this season, they wouldn't deserve, I don't think, to be in the playoffs, just with the amount of games that they have lost. Even with the win here, I think they're going into the playoffs with a either even or negative winning rate. So, still wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs, though. And Yankee says an X factor. Says Joseph. I find it weird that people have different opinions on players. For example, LeBock, some say brilliant, some say not. Watching the same players, aren't we? Says Roger. But it is going to now be the scrum feed for the Stormers, sitting about 43 metres out from their line. Got a big opportunity to try and get that scrum moving forward again. They're trying the big push. It's going to hold strong just for now. The Stormers going off to the left-hand side. Sasha Feinberg, Zulu pops it up to Marnie Libok. Beautiful sell of the dummy. Passes on the outside. Chance here for Sanatla. He will get his second try. I mentioned it earlier on. He wanted to make up for the 2 that was scored during his yellow card, and he has got his double now. Marnie Libok. A great show and go from him to create the space, create the indecision in the Glasgow defence. And it has done wonders here for the Stormers side. But yeah, just finding the gap there, Marnie Libok. Libok is better than Pollard with the winky face. Throwing rugby itch. Well, I don't really go around smooching kangaroos. Says Uraf. But yeah, great hands. What a Calamp with the try assist. Like we mentioned earlier on, we had hardly seen him in this contest, but he's in it now. Now Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu. So he had to line up the kick. And there we go, that's better Province. And Yankees is an impact player. So here's Edwin, misses this one away to the side for Sasha, which is now going to make the score 19 points to 18. Lebok, is Y factor as why he's there. Says ARC, but yeah, the delayed pass just sold the whole Glasgow defence the wrong way. And see how brilliant Lebok is. See here's Brian and Sanatla scoring like a sevens game and making it look easy. Says on the right, yeah, he's running 2 tries where no one's even touched him at this point in time. They're certainly making it look much easier than I'm sure it is. And thank you, forwards, for the work. Apparently koalas smell terrible. Don't know, never met one, says Suckabulla. I've touched a koala before, not in a weird way. I don't remember what it smelled like, though. I was very young. But now, chance here for the Glasgow Warriors. Oh, ref was just about to give the Stormers the not releasing penalty, but decided against it. So Glasgow will still be on attack. 10 metres out from the line, trying the step and a low tackle made by Paul de Villiers. Now back across to the right-hand side of rugby. Without box teams, it's like drinking water without a glass by Hamish. Says Fareed. I'm a bit confused about the analogy. We've got a bottle, which is quite handy. You can hold more water in it. And now going back across to the right-hand side, George Horn. Glasgow still on the attack. How do you touch a koala in a weird way, Hamish? I don't want to have to explain that one to you, Suckabulla. But self-explanatory, I guess you could say. But we have got there why would we think you would touch. Oh no, that's going through there. Chance ever. Tom Jordan offloads up to Josh McKay. Couple metres out and he scores it. The man who was closest to making that tackle over the goal line was the referee who had to dodge McKay as he made his way forward. What nation is Tom Jordan from? Eligible for Scotland, born in New Zealand, I think, if I'm not wrong. I think he's a Kiwi. I think the Lions story is the fact that Aussie sides are doing well, or the fact that Aussie sides are doing well. But just really nicely done by Tom Jordan. Creates the gap. Warwick Land has to make the tackle, but then the follow-up was not there. And just popping it up. Jordan's having a field day in that 10 jersey. At the moment for Glasgow, that kick has gone over too, so that brings the difference back to 8 points. I saw the evidence. Touched the koala in a friendly place, and the koala didn't press charges. Sebastian. I saw that picture the other day when I was on my hard drive. I look so happy about getting to touch said koala. It's the first and only koala I've ever touched. But now 46 and a half minutes in, and Glasgow, 8 points ahead. We see how brilliant Marnie is. That Glasgow try came from very bad kick from Marnie. Should have cleared the line. So here's Eric. So yeah, I guess that puts him and Sasha 1-1 at the moment in terms of poor kicks that led to tries in this contest. This game is turning out to be a thriller. So here's Xander. Now, sitting 33 minutes remaining. Some deep breaths being taken by both of these sides. Touching story, gents. Let's get back to the game. Oh, we've been told off. Now sitting 15 metres out from the line, Hinko Fenta. And George Horn ready to clear his lines. Does want to get a few extra metres. It looks like actually going infield, so trying to keep it contestable. Nicely claimed by Ben Loader. And now stolen by Glasgow again with another counter-attack. They were 10-1 in clean breaks throughout the first half. Ball all. Referee did not have his flag up, so it is going to be play on. Rough pass, but great hands there from Glasgow. That was close to a forward pass, but it goes on the outside. Chance here for Colstein. Bit of a slip. Tackled there by Evan Russ and Paul de Villiers. Crowd booing there. I think they were asking for a penalty in the breakdown. Here it does. The kick cancels out his line break brilliance. Says Catnap. And come on, the Stormers, come now. We need tries, please. Says Babe. Going to be kicked high now from George Horn. Kyle Stain going up for it and takes it well. And just to win the aerial battle up against Sinatla. Back across to the left-hand side. Tom Jordan saw the rush defence of Sasha Feinberg. Ngumaz Zulu, so hangs on to it rather than throwing the pass. Just playing like he's got 1 or 2 extra seconds than everyone else at the moment. Tom Jordan, huge run from Hinko Fenta. Now Horn shoveling that ball out the back through his legs almost. And come on, Stormers, there's Sakabula. What time is it in New Zealand right now? It's almost 8 a.m. here in New Zealand, currently sitting 7:48. Being told to use it again. Horn will roll this one back. Ugly hit and run rugby now. So here's ARC. Going to be put high. Only goes about 2 metres, but once again, Stain has to go up for it. Little knock on from Glasgow. Now the Stormers, they've got another chance. Stain's done well to get up from that. He probably would have ended up winded. They've kicked that ball away, the Stormers, giving it straight back to Glasgow, who have loved the way that the Stormers are playing, as it's just given them counter-attack after counter-attack. Evan Ruiz with the knock on there. Ball claimed by Glasgow. Wide cut-out pass again to Kyle Stain. Has Sinatla in front of him. Has managed to wrestle him down a little bit high at the end of it. Rugby Club World Cup starts at 2028. Says Southern Arthur. Yeah, it's going to be an entertaining one to see which sides are actually in it, because I think it's 20 teams, isn't it? Or is it 16 teams who are going to be taking part? Now kicked high by George Horn again. A little bit deeper than his last one. Cole Stain for the third time has to try and go up for it, but this time he has knocked that ball on. Come on, Glasgow. So here's Quandilly now running forward as Watercalant. Advantage is now over. Says the referee for that knock on. Pick and go coming from Andre Hugo Fenta. We haven't seen a huge amount of his runs throughout this contest either. Labok going for the kick in behind. In fact, this time, it was Sasha who did kick in, and it is a nice, easy mark called by Josh Mackay. And come on, the Stormers, says Georgia there. Springbok 15 made from players playing for other nations could win the World Cup. Says Catnap. Are going to be live for the Reds against the Drawers. Sadly for that game, due to the overlap with the first quarter-final of the URC, it means that we won't be live for that game. But the last 10 minutes of that game will be overlapping with the start of our next one, and we will be giving our thoughts on what happened throughout that game in that build-up of the next match. And so I would recommend popping in if you do want to have a bit of a chat about that Reds-Drua game. And Stormers missing the calming presence of Damien Valimza calling scrums in his 22, says Christian. Have you had a jam on the guitar? Not for like a good year or so, I would say. Guitar has been in storage. Oh, thrown to the front. Real miscommunication there from the Stormers again, which now gives Glasgow another attacking chance to use their backline. Skip pass perfectly into the hands of Josh Mackay. Draw and pass again. Ball on the inside over the top to George Horn, and they will score another try there, the Glasgow Warriors. That was fantastic build-up play. And again, Just a mistake from the Stormers leads to the counter-attack from Glasgow. And Stormers are done, says ARC. Yeah, that one might just about be the end of the Stormers' chances. But just the line out going wrong there. Andre Hugo Fenta going to the front, threw it only about at the maybe head height of the guy who wasn't jumping. And no one wants to watch Reds game. That's not true. I'll be watching that game before the start of the URC one. As the Reds can actually make a bit of ground. They can go ahead of the Hurricanes from that contest. Any reason why try can't be awarded? Anything at all? Maybe if you really, they might check that last pass in an optimistic way for the Stormers. But other than that, it looked pretty far backwards, to be fair, though. So, yeah, I don't think much they can disallow from that one. There will be another try there for Glasgow. They have started out the second half on fire. Oh, Horn strikes it well enough and does go over. Making the score now 33 points to 18. Currently, the way that it sits, 15 points difference between these two sides. So the Stormers are definitely going to need multiple tries. Oh, a slap to the face of George Horn as he scored that try from the Stormers defence. Good night, Stormers, says Trevor. And Stormers are bad, says Victor. And by Stormers try next time, says Edward. Yeah, the last time that these two sides played off, they lost by 17. If they concede a couple more tries, they will lose by more than that. But they're still, as bad as the scoreline looks for them at the moment, they're not out of this game. They have scored 3 tries in quick succession before, but they need something big. Now it's not over for the Stormers, says Malomko. Yeah, they've still got a chance if they can be the next team to score and then just work their way back in. They've been turning down threes throughout this contest, but the three-pointer might be what actually gets them back into the game if they do score twice. Ben Loader. Tackle round the halfway line. Stephen Nkura going back across. Now, I should mention, if it was to happen, which it looks unlikely, but extra time is a factor. If these two sides are at a draw at the full-time siren, they will have an extra time period of 20 minutes, I believe, which could certainly tire out these two sides. But another knock-on coming from the Stormers here. This time, Evan Russ. Not able to claim it. Yeah, I'm out and going to start breakfast. I think my dog knows it's time to cook. Dog, yeah. And we have got the Elite Soap Sharks can do it tomorrow, says Marthinus. And game over Stormers, says Jared. And come on, the Stormers, play the way you can. Some clever rugby, please, says Viv B. And at the moment, it is shaping up for a Glasgow versus Leinster rematch from only a week ago. 2 weeks, in fact. And come on, Stormers, says Viv B there. And also, how long is the game? Currently, still another 26 minutes remaining. Looks like the 18% of us who voted for Glasgow win. Sitting pretty, says Gavin. And Stormers big players dropping them tonight. George Horn feeding the ball in for Glasgow. Ball going off to the left-hand side. This time they are 40 metres out from their line. Sione Tuipulotu straight through. 2 missed tackles. One from Rus, one from Hartzenberg. And they have once again gained about 50 metres. In just one play, Sasha offside by a mile. Referee sticking his arm out and saying penalty advantage. It is all going downhill at the moment for the Stormers, and if they're not careful, they're going to concede again. Talakai, tackled by Andre Hugo Fenta. One of the turnover couldn't get a little chip tried from George Horn. They'll go back for another penalty. This is where Glasgow can either go for the doctor, go for the corner, try and finish it off, or they can go for the 3 and just build that lead up to 18 points. Stormers' spirit's broken, says Sakabula. And also Stormers by, says Fareed. In there too. What time is the Stormers game tonight? Says ARC. I assume you're saying that they haven't turned up for this contest, but sadly they've only got the 25 minutes now to be able to change the outcome of this contest. Tata Stormers, Bulls and Sharks, it's on to you now, says Marthinus, and they have decided to take the 3 now. Glasgow looks like they've picked the perfect time to start coming right. They will be away from home more than likely for their next contest. That is if Leinster manage to get the win over Scarlets. And what they are at this rate, Glasgow can score again and kill it, says Viv B. Yeah, although one benefit is they are going for the 3 rather than going for the 7. Apparently Rus, as an overbearing father, that has been the rumour going round. And he's had an absolute shocker of a game here. Evan Rus. Now they have extended the lead by an extra 3 points, making the score 36 points to 18. And loss for the Stormers, says Morgan, and Sasha just got exposed. Every team going to study his weaknesses, says Uraf, and not sure why Canes will win tonight. Moana could put in a big team effort, says John. But the good news for the Canes is even if they don't win, they are still through to the next stage. I feel like that's one massive bonus that they've got in comparison to the Blues and the Waratahs, who, if they end up winning and then Moana win, they both miss out. Rus has a problem father and a fan base that overhope his talent, says Eric. All right, Connor Evans. He is on the field for Ruben van Heeren, and Sunday has made his way on too. And that is going to be a penalty now going the way of the Stormers. A little bit of obstruction by the looks of it. And Nkura looks like he's going to be lining up the kick towards the sideline. No, in fact, he's going to leave it. How's Murat been performing, Hamish? He looked pretty solid at the start of the game. Sadly, went off with an injury, though, within the first maybe 10 minutes of the contest. And since then, we haven't really seen much of a functioning line out here for the Stormers, which will be a concern because they've got a line out now 5 metres out from Glasgow's line. If you go back to the start of the chat when Stormers was leading, I said Stormers won't win. Says Albert. I know that you said the Stormers won't win. But yeah, like they are underdogs, probably for a reason in this contest. So yeah, unfortunately they are playing like underdogs at the moment too. That is the reason why Ruas is not a Springbok big games. He falls out of the bus, says Alvin. And so, sorry Stormers, we will see tomorrow. I'm a bull. Says Morgan, big defence coming from Glasgow, forcing the Stormers. They've gone from a 5 metre line out to 20 metres out from the line. So that is pretty brutal. But Yankees is on the field. That is actually for Hudson Berg. And that was due to the early injury of Dan Duplessis that they did have to make that switch of Labok earlier. It's a tough game, and that is another penalty going the way of the Stormers here. Crowd booing for that one. I think Scott Cummings just making sure that they're not going to give him an extra 10 metres marching. Labok lining up the sideline here. This one has to go out in the corner. Go the Bulls, go the Sharks. Just this week, Dobson said the Stormers are the best team in the URC. Let me guess, he is the best coach in the URC. What a clown. Says WLK, and Morat's injury are woeful. His body is stuffed. More injuries than you can count, says Viv B. We need some Sasha magic, says Daniel. Yeah, he's another guy. Similar to Evan Ruiz. Had a very... Adding very in there sounds poor, a bit rough, but he had a poor first half. Didn't really find too much. Gave the ball back to Glasgow, which allowed counterattacks where Glasgow gained over 100 metres across them. How's the stadium? Looks like the crowd are loving it. At the moment, the Glasgow supporters turning up for what could be their last home game of the season. Advantage now going the way of the Stormers for an early engagement from Glasgow. We also have to remember that Glasgow were on their last warning a little while ago. So if they end up giving away a penalty for something cynical here, they could end up finding themselves in the bin. That ball available now for the Stormers though. Nkura going back across the right-hand side. Mani Lebok, another drop ball from the Stormers. Big blow of the whistle from the referee. Morat gets injured a lot. Even that a game where he was bot captain, he didn't last 20 minutes, says Sakabula. And we have to give Ruiz a break as this entire team is missing tackles. Can't expect him to save a not performing ship, says Catnap. Any Jew out there explaining the Stormers' errors? I actually don't think there is. Like, the sun was out for all of the first half. Maybe like a little bit now, but that whole first half, it looked dry as it could be. And that was when the Stormers were really struggling to catch the ball. Ola Hamish, how's things, mate? Says Darren, doing very well. Excited for the rest of the quarterfinals that are taking place throughout this weekend. We are covering them all on the channel. And alongside that, we are also doing the Super Rugby fixtures in about 8.5 hours' time. So we have got quite the busy day. What is Marnie doing? Says Daniel. Yeah, see, he's been similar to Sasha. He had a really good play where he helped set up the try for the Stormers. Then also has been going for those kicks downfield that haven't really been working. Now, oh no, that is so poor from Andre Hugo Fenta. They had the rolling maul. He tries to go off the back, drops the ball cold. And those are the type of moments that are going to cost the Stormers side if they haven't already cost them from earlier in the match. The box should have started. I actually think if I was in charge, which of course I am not, and there's good reason for that, but I would have gone Sasha 15, Labok 10. I feel like that combo would have worked quite nicely, but Andre Hugo Fenta, just pure frustration for him after they've done so much to get to that goal line, just to let it slip through the fingertips. But that's been the difference. The Stormers have been nowhere near clinical enough when they're 10 metres out from the opposition line. Whereas each and every time that we have seen Glasgow enter, they've got a very good chance of scoring. It's a Northern versus Southern URC finals, says Noah. And I'm a day, says Daniel, and Joseph Dweba now going to make his way onto the field. That is the last play now Andre Hugo Fenta would have wanted as his final moment in this game. I don't know what's going on with the Stormers, but it doesn't look like they want it hard enough, says Balumko. Yeah, it's just far too many errors. Unfortunately, Hugo Fenta should get paid this week. He's had a fantastic game in that loose forward trio. Tom Jordan, he's been outstanding. Josh Mackay, not too bad from the back alongside Kyle Stain too. Looks like a few changes have also been made in that front row department for the Glasgow Warriors. Doesn't mean that Johnny Matthews has made his way on. And awkward dinner conversations with Rassi for Andre Hugo Fenta. Oh, sorry, I was talking about Henko Fenta in terms of should get paid this week for what he's been able to do in this game. But yeah, Andre Hugo Fenta far from his best as well. So glad I'm not watching this game. My poor TV wouldn't have survived it. And we can wave this quarterfinal goodbye. That's going to be a free kick now going the way of Glasgow for the early engagement from the Stormers. Well, that's why I don't bother most of the time. Embarrassing for us Southern Hemisphere rugby fans. Stormers should convert their club to soccer, says you're rough. And come on, Stormers, pull your socks up, says Johnny Blaze. And I think this is also the perfect example, not just of the Stormers, like maybe not quite getting it right here, but Glasgow have been near their best in this matchup. We've got to remember, this is a side that have been struggling in a few of their most recent games. Their defence has been strong, but unfortunately, you know, that game up against Benetton not too long ago, 33 points to 7, losing that contest, that seemed like maybe it was going to be the one that took them out of contention, but they've shown up in this game and they've just looked very strong. See how Springboks play in New Zealand, they come back. Says Amoharadin, another loose ball, this time picked up by Stephen Nkura though. A little bit of a lucky bounce there for the Stormers as they look to get one more attack going, and the penalty does go their way. And I will say it like I said it before, there's still a chance, no matter how thin it is, that the Stormers with a yellow card advantage could get back into this game. Crazy to say, but I mean, we saw 2 tries scored. Oh, that's a nice run from Waterclan. Terrible offload. Just throwing it to absolutely no one. The lucky thing for him was that Glasgow missed the kick when they were trying to boot it downfield. And I meant that the Stormers now still have possession. Nice short ball from Lebok, but it's dropped by Herschel Yankees this time. And it's another scrum for the Glasgow Warriors. Hello to Mum and Durban. I hope Sharks have a better game tomorrow than the Stormers tonight, says Diane. And Sasha, we need magic now. Says Daniel, what happens if draw lose and the Blues and Moana loss? How do they stand? So the draw would still be in the second last spot. Unfortunate. Oh, sorry. If the draw win, they would actually go up to 9th, I believe. But no matter what, they can't make it to the playoffs, sadly. The highest that they can get, I believe, is 25 points. Looks like Henko Fenta may have a bit of an injury here. The last player that they'll be wanting to lose is that man, as he's had quite the performance throughout this match. But yeah, Fijian draw on 20 points. At the moment, they can't drop anymore, but they can go above the Western Force. Mono struggled recently, but last year, our win shows Glasgow have some balls to dig in, says Leshen. Yeah, exactly right. When they need to play well, they seem to. With the exception, of course, of that Champions Cup playoff match that they did take part in. Stormers are out on their feet, says Ruben. And drop sounds like we play in basketball, says Anthony. No chance for the Stormers now. Do you agree with me? Not necessarily. Like, yes, they've made so many mistakes that it's almost becoming comical at this point. But I just, 15 minutes is a long time in a game of rugby. And the Stormers do have Glasgow on one of their last warnings for yellow card-wise. So, Glasgow concede a yellow card down to 14. Then you're in that predicament of Stormers get 1 or 2 quick-fire tries and they're back in this game for the final moments. But if they keep on dropping the ball, that type of play isn't going to become a reality. And Sasha 10 and Lebok 15, that would be a good combination. Lebok 15 is something I haven't heard too much. Normally it's Lebok 10, Sasha 15 is what people would like to go with. That is a massive push from the Stormers. I like your spirit, man, making me still have hope for my team. Well, they've had a dominant scrum. So the more that they can go to that scrum throughout the last 15 minutes, the more penalties they will win, the more last-ditch chance that Glasgow will have of keeping with 15 on the field. Sasha Fainberg-Zulu is overrated. He's the most overrated hype player in South Africa. Pressure reveals a lot, says Cameron Kay. Well, that's the thing. Like, there's no denying he's a phenomenal player. But pressure sometimes isn't the best thing to put on a young player. Sometimes they just need the opportunity to play the way that they normally would without having too much expectation. You know, Sasha's at his best when he's looking composed, when he's looking calm. The last few games for him, including the last match, it just doesn't look like he's quite on his A game. And it's ever since the media, and as well as everyone has started saying he's the best 10 in the world, that he looks like he's far from it. But, you know, he can step up in the moments. It's just becoming a bit too much. The Stormers have once again lost their line out, ladies and gents. We have there, Stain, my man of the match. He's done well under the high ball, Kyle Stain. He's had to go up for about 7 of them, and he's just slapped it back onto the side of the Glasgow Warriors again. Tackle made by Stephen Nkura, a little bit high on Max Williamson. Ref says it's on the shoulder, and the penalty goes the way of Glasgow. This is the best performance from the Warriors, says Savanatha. And also, if they were taking points, they could have chipped 9 points from that lead, says Catnap. Yeah, we could have been going into halftime 18-18 with a lot more. In fact, no, sorry, 19-19, in fact, it would have been. It's game over for the Stormers unless GW gets that yellow card. Says it was there from Fun Nkosi, yeah. Or, sorry, Fun. Is it Funny Nkosi or is it Fun Nkosi? Do let me know. Stormers historically don't have BMT. But now they've got themselves 10 metres out from the line. Again, chance for the Stormers. They have blown many of these chances throughout this quarter final. But can they finally get themselves another try? Sasha Fainberg, Zulu goes across to Mani Lebox and Natley. He scored both tries for the Stormers at this point. Currently on a hat-trick. If he can get another one, Connor Evans, ball stripped off him. Glasgow just showing off their wherewithal again. A little bit of off-the-ball stuff happening from Sinatla there. Ref doing everything to get Stormers back in the match. They want nothing of it, says Eric. And 3 points Glasgow, says Noah James. Yeah, 3 points from here would get them into the lead of 21, which would mean 3 converted tries would only draw the game for the Stormers. But JD Schickerling going for the pass on the outside, and it goes straight into touch. Our first pronunciation was correct. So it is Funi Nkosi. Hopefully that is right. So Natla needs that Springbok cap, says Catnap. And why didn't Similani play? I actually don't know whether or not there was an injury there for Similani or whether or not it was just tactically they decided against him. But honestly, if he was match fit, I would have liked to see him there. Even if the Stormers won, they would have to play away in the semi against Leinster or Scarlet. So that's probably why they gave up. I wouldn't say that that's the case. I think that they've just had a lot of mistakes in this game. I don't even think that the semi-final can be on either of these sides' minds throughout this game, because as soon as you start thinking about that, you know, you lose that mentality. But I don't think that's what's caused the Stormers to have a problem here. I think it's just been that Glasgow have been so good at getting in those breakdowns, at ripping the ball away, at winning the penalties. And of course, you better beat the blocks in Ireland. Test side Leinster, says Fareed, but now Talakai with the possession in hand. George Horn rolling this one back. For the box kick, Connie Evans just can't quite get the fingertips to it. Chance here for Sinatla. Gets around the tackle attempt of Kyle Stain. Gets around the tackle attempt of Scott Cummings, and then is almost clotheslined by George Horn. Shot looked a little bit high, and they will go back for the penalty for the high shot now. 11 minutes remaining. The crowd are booing, but it was high. I mean, George Horn almost jumped into the clothesline. I won a bet for Sinatla to score. I wish I could win that bet twice, considering he scored twice. That would be an interesting one if any betting outfits did that. I feel like they would actually probably be quite popular in that regard. Sinatla is the only one who showed up today, says Catnap, but we've also got to remember, like, don't get me wrong, Sinatla's been great on attack, but he got a yellow card that led to 2 tries for Glasgow. So, yes, he scored 2, but then, in a way, he also, I know it's harsh to say, but he kind of conceded 2. He at least conceded 1 because he wasn't back there covering for the kick and behind from Sione Tui Pilotu. But, like, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because that 10 minutes was the difference maker for Glasgow. That's where they found their rhythm and started getting going. Now it's stolen, almost, for Glasgow, but it is claimed now by the Stormers. But straight on the breakdown, Glasgow almost able to take it straight back. 22 metres out from the line. George Horn is taken off the field. And that is for Mackenzie Duncan. In fact, it might have been Jamie Dobie, in fact. I love how Albert keeps giving us a mention as potential opposition. Cheers, Albert, I do believe. It was Stormers number 20 in this game. I believe it's Connor Evans, who is the number 20. And then they've got Lowe now as 21. Now going back across to the right-hand side. Skip pass attempted from the Stormers. Bounces twice before it hits Ben Loader. About 15 metres out from the line. Stephen Nkura going back across. And it's another knock on from the Stormers. I don't know what's happening here, but it seems to be every time they try and do something, they just drop that ball. And like they're saying, like Glasgow doing well in defence, but no one was near Vernon Matongo. And we have got their chat Afrikaans. Sadly, I don't know a lot of Afrikaans, only Bayadanki and Yaulekading. But other than that, I'm not very schooled up on the Afrikaans, although I do know a lot of swear words because I've been called them all throughout my time on YouTube, so that's fun. Too many handling here as Stormer, says Viv B. And of course, the best player in the world is Colby, says Farid. And best player in the world is Antoine Dupont, says Ruth. And Gutted says One Pierre Bosch. Yeah, far from the best Stormers performance in this match. They are still down by 18, which at times, from the amount of times that they've dropped that ball, like they're probably lucky to be just down by that. And Afrikaans says Jakob, once again, I only know those sentences. So he's the best player in the world right now in terms of form. Go with Artie Savi and you. See, it's a very hard one to say because as soon as you say anyone, of course, someone would go with another player. I think that Artie's done incredible things for Moana Pacifica throughout recent times. Some would say, like, that's the thing. Peter Steph-Tatoi gets a lot of praise for being one of, if not the best player in the world. But when he plays in Japan, you don't get all those updates only because of the fact that they don't seem to show those Japanese games for us as much as they used to. I think they're on Rugby Pass. Yeah, Afrikaans sounds very English. Says Ruben. Yeah, that's because I probably said it about as badly as you could. And the Glasgow midfield combo of Tom Jordan and Tui Pilotu works, says Catnap. Although they've got Tom Jordan at 10 here in this contest. I think it was their game up against Leinster where they did a bit of a reshuffle and that actually really hurt Glasgow. And that's what the Stormers have had to do in this game, a bit of a reshuffle in terms of who is where, but currently 9 minutes remaining. Is Tom Jordan on the Lions tour? I don't think he is, but tell you what, he'd certainly be close to a player who you'd bring in if he was going to need or be needed due to an injury. I think he'd be a pretty good choice. He's probably going to jail for murdering the Japanese on the field, says on the right. Now kicking this one downfield. Does go into touch. Sitting about 8 minutes remaining in this contest. Decent clearing kick from Dobie. Your thoughts on the Club World Cup, Hamish? It's still 3 years away, so they'll probably change their minds about it a few times. I just hope that they promote it a lot better than they did Munster versus Crusaders, because that was a case of URC champion versus Super Rugby champion, and they hid it behind a Six Nations fixture. Both of the sides didn't have their best players, so I hope that that's something else for the Club World Cup that they can incorporate, as having all the best players available. We see there Duncan making his way on, but Henko Fenta, I think that's one of the best round of applauses we have heard for a player in quite some time. We've got to remember, it's a smaller stadium too, but the crowd all getting behind him. And another not straight line out from the Stormers. This time Joseph Dweber, the man who was throwing it. Peter Steph was only good in 2023. He wasn't that good in 2024. Says you're rough. It's probably, I guess you could put it down to, like, not having that World Cup. Like, at the end of the day, the World Cup, he absolutely went on fire. We have got their Hamish Polynesian pronunciations as top drawer. Says Wenma. Now, 7 minutes. Of course, we are going to be covering that Moana Pacifica match up against the Hurricanes at 7:05 p.m. today. So that has taken place in about 11 hours' time. We've also got a game happening in about 8, and that will be the matchup between Waratahs and the Blues. And again, Glasgow got themselves the ball again. Stephen Nkura, angry with one of the Glasgow players. Stormers giving me Protea flashbacks when it comes to knockout games. Says Lionel, in game off for the Stormers, says Morgan, and Stormers was never a good team, always just one lucky one person, don't make a team. Says Jake, so who's the one person at the moment? Are you saying it's Sasha? Are you saying it's Evan Russ? Who is that one guy that you normally would say people rely on? Stephen Nkura, back across to the right-hand side. Short ball from Connor Evans. They are still trying here, the Stormers, but unfortunately every time they get something going, normally the ball is dropped only 1 or 2 phases after. Wing, says Jakes. Okay, so you're saying Sinatla for this contest. But yeah, once again, he's had a bit of a 50-50 game too, because yes, he's been great on attack, but he got a yellow card that then led to Glasgow's momentum, which I think they continued from there with the man advantage. Now off to the side again. Here comes Sinatla with a little grubber. It sits up for him, but he's knocked it on. And it's now going to be the Stormers who concede the scrum again. And I mean, he's not a machine. He's human. Says Catnap. Can you change the score to Stormers winning? It's probably tricky to do. But can I do this? Does this work? We'll just get fancy with it. I could have changed it in there, I think, but it would have been very confusing. But no, they are currently needing much more points than they have got. I was just going to switch what side the two teams were on. Change their pitches. I can only do as good as the team allow you, says Jake. Now we're over there. DuPont World Cup 0, says Farid. And if only Dweber could throw in at the lineout, he would be up there, says Fleshin. And sadly, quite a few quite a few hookers have had that same problem throughout their career of being a world-class player everywhere else, except for the role where they are supposed to be strong. Like, don't get me wrong, Dweber's lineouts have actually come a long way, but him and Fenta have been far from the best in this contest. We have got there, Rus, says Noah James. Now, down to the last 5 minutes, it is looking extremely unlikely now for the Stormers to get that comeback. Brilliant. Thanks so much, catch you for hopefully some South African wins. And we are going to be live for all 3 quarterfinals, including both of the South African teams, ladies and gents. So if you are new, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Nice tackle made by Mani Lebok. Looking for the turnover and the breakdown with Sasha, but he has lost his footing. Does have to pull out of it. Goodbye, Ruth says, no, I'm best player in the world. It's Colby. He can step, he can kick, he can even play hooker. Says Farid, that's going to be taken again by Stain. He has been dominant under the high ball. He's given Sinatla all sorts of problems with those up and unders. Kick behind now from Hastings. I think Glasgow, the good news for them is maybe just one injury from this game, as they have had their fair share throughout the season. Wide cutout pass, knock on from Loader, although the pass had nothing going for it. It was over his head. Probably did well just to get the hand on it. But that has to be about the 15th, if not higher, error from the Stormers at the moment. And unfortunately, if you can't catch the ball, you can't do much in a game of rugby. Why is he playing overseas? Who are we talking about? Peter Steff or Colby? One of those two, I assume it is. But clean breaks, 18 for Glasgow. Player of the match. I've just said there, Henko Fenta has done well. Tom Jordan's done well. Kyle Stain. Interesting. They've given it to Rory Darge. Now, he did score the first try of the match, I believe. Oh, loose ball. Sinatla picks it up, kicks it downfield, looking for a little bit of space in behind. But yeah, I don't think I would have gone with Rory Darge. Perhaps a lot more work in the breakdown than we've given him credit for. 10 metres out, Tom Jordan, says Edward. And money makes the wheel go round. Says sucker ball and Stormers are down and out, fair and square, says Ruben. But yeah, 39 defenders beaten for Glasgow in this game. They've only had the ball for 47% of the time and had 35% territory. But from that time, they've really had an impact. Tackle success, 80%. Stormers tackling at 65%. And 16 penalties against Glasgow. So I have to say they're probably lucky not to have that yellow card just at this point in time. Not that it would have made, by the looks of it, a huge amount of difference. They've still been very clinical. 2 minutes remaining. Joseph Dweba. Can the Stormers get themselves one more? No, they can't, because they decided to clean out a man, pass the ball with JD Schickerling, and they concede the penalty again. Team meters out says on the right, and Stormers have a line out says on the right. And hit the like, says Suckabulla. That was almost going to rhyme if your name wasn't Suckabulla and it was something finishing in Ike. And we have got there, the Stormers' tackle success rate was poor. Says Catnap, yeah, you can't miss 39 tackles in a quarterfinal and expect to still be competitive. And you also can't drop the ball 15 times in a quarterfinal and expect a different result. Like, the Stormers on another day, maybe they could have been a lot better, but this game in particular has just gone Glasgow all the way. Well done, Glasgow Warriors, says Noah James. When Stormers play again, they don't, up until the next URC competition. So probably about August, or maybe a little bit later is when it actually starts up. And now running forward. Chance here for the Glasgow Warriors. Inside ball almost hits the ref. And Andrew Brace does apologise for that one. And it will be now the scrum for Glasgow. So that will use up a little bit more time. It's pretty sad. Is it fair to say that Glasgow was twice as good as the Stormers? I think so. I think Glasgow, looking at their attack, if they play like this in their next game, they're going to be a hard side to beat again. So, yeah, it could be Leinster, Glasgow in a rematch. Leinster are currently, I believe, 2-0 or maybe even 3-0 up over Glasgow for the last 12 months. But could it be this semi-final that they really make the statement? As Stormers need to point, says Roof. They don't, not for a URC match, says Brian. What's wrong with the Stormers? Come on, boys. Yeah, just too many handling errors, unfortunately, has been the summary of their game. Kicking the ball away early, making mistakes in that regard of giving this Glasgow side a counter-attacking chance. And our ball going to be fed in now by the Glasgow Warriors. The one thing that the Stormers have done incredibly well throughout this game is their scrum. They've been dominating, whether it's their feed or against the feed, they've been winning them. But Glasgow, the full-time siren sounds, they kick the ball into touch, and just like that, Glasgow booked themselves a spot through to the semi-final. They still have the chance of defending their title. But it's going to take a monumental effort in their next game. If Leinster win, they will be playing in Ireland. If Leinster lose and the Scarlets get the victory, Glasgow will have another home game and can still theoretically get a home final. So it's still all on in the comp. But of course, for that to happen, every favourite would have had to lose. Disappointing performance by our boys. Congrats to the Warriors. Says Roger down up the Glasgow Wars. Says Johnny Blaze. And thanks so much, very much enjoyed. Says Catnap. Yeah, it's unfortunate that the Stormers didn't play better, because at the first half break, it seemed like this one was going to be extremely competitive. Heading into the second half, it still left the door wide open for someone to have a close game, though, throughout this weekend. And maybe could be the game just around the corner. Are you streaming the Blues game? We certainly are. We will be scheduling those ones in the relatively near future. But these are the quarterfinals, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the better way of doing it would be this. So, Glasgow have won their game up against the Stormers. They advanced to the semi to face the winner of Leinster and Scarlets. On the other side of the draw, the Bulls are taking on Edinburgh. That is kicking off at 1:30 p.m. South African time tomorrow. And then alongside that, the other game, Sharks versus Munster. That is the 6:30 p.m. kickoff for you guys in South Africa. That'll be a 4:30 a.m. game for us here in New Zealand. And we will be covering all three of them on the channel. Plus the game between the Blues and the Waratahs and Moana Pacifica taking on the Hurricanes. There's still plenty more to come on the channel. Probably about 11 hours more of commentating. Next stream is in 8 hours time though. I do thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one.